Good morning, class. Any doubts? We've started with the 91 reforms. But first time anti-directed poverty started here. इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ. Because I told you, right, there was no job creation. Inequality increased. People were not getting anything. So what we were trying to say in 4th 5-year plan is that redistribution is more important. We have to prevent concentration. Private means concentration. It was very less employment because mostly government control tha sab. Ideal could be a lot of things, but what drives ideal or not ideal? Yes, in today's newspaper, just see the headline in the Hindu. Import licensing. What sense does it make? We started with 91 reforms and we are saying we are going to end all controls. And today we have introduced licensing for laptops, making it difficult to bring the laptops from outside. Bringing back the import substituted era. Is the idea of disinvestment clear? What is PPP model? हाँ तो उसमें क्या होता है? पार्टनरशिप करते हैं, क्या करते हैं, क्यों होता है? हाँ, वेट फॉर इट ना. विल डिस्कस इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, विल डिस्कस पीपीपी. डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट इज क्लियर. उसमें एसेट, इसमें ओनरशिप जा रहा है. पीपीपी मॉडल में देयर इज नो एसेट गिवन टू द प्राइवेट सेक्टर. ओनली फॉर अ टाइम बीइंग द एसेट इज गिवन बिकॉज वी वांट डेवलपमेंट. वो रोल गवर्नमेंट का है बट हमसे हो नहीं पा रहा, सो प्राइवेट सेक्टर. हियर यू आर डाइल्यूटिंग द ओनरशिप. दिस इज परमानेंट गिविंग द शेयर्स. %50 say that decision making is not in the hands of the government. If the government is holding, say, this is 30% government and 70%, can the government make any decisions? This is privatization. Is privatization. We have not sold the company, but we have given up all of the decision making powers. 30% shareholding government ki hi hai. Strategic sale is when you sell the company completely to one private player. Is the idea of disinvestment clear? Why do we do disinvestment? What is the reasons for disinvestment? Because the whole idea is that government will always have a moral hazard. So there is no, government business should not be there. Government should not perform a role of a firm. The idea of disinvestment is clear, what happens and why it is happening. Now what are the problems in disinvestment? We discussed the rationale for it. What would be the problems of disinvestment? The idea is clear. And how disinvestment started in 91, 20% was announced in the budget. Budget of 1991 announced that we are going to disinvest 20% because we have to move out of certain sectors. Now what could be the issues or problems in disinvestment? Monopoly, loss of jobs, anything else? Because Reliance wants to enter in laptop business. PSUs. See, the biggest thing is, we discussed that PSUs have a role in the economy. That means you have to keep some PSUs and rest you have to disinvest. Right? PSUs have a role. We have discussed the role of PSUs, that they provide essentials and all of those things. That means some PSUs are required in the economy and some are not. That means the decision with respect to disinvestment, there has to be certain concrete plan on where the government wants to stay and where the government has to leave. And also not just deciding which PSU they are disinvesting, but how much they are disinvesting. This should be followed by a plan. For taking a decision where the government has to stay and where the government has to leave, you need to know what exactly is the government strategy, which sector is this government considering essential. For example, banking could be considered as essential or non-essential. But the government is saying privatization of banks. So there's no clear-cut decision right from 91 onwards. The government has not made it clear that what are the essential PSUs where they are going to stay. Telecom might be one area which might not be considered essential now because of the improvement in the private services. But the government has invested 5,000 crore in BSNL, but has announced disinvestment in banks. Not only this, recently the government also announced 20% disinvestment in. This was an announcement made 2 years back, and still till date we don't know what is the reason behind it. There are 3 major oil marketing companies, but only one has been chosen, and that too 20% has been chosen there. So we don't know what the government strategy is. So most of the times whenever disinvestment is announced by the government, there is no concrete plan onto which PSU to be disinvested and how much quantum has to be disinvested. Because there's no clear strategy which sectors can be considered essential and from where we should leave. There have been a lot of recommendations behind this. The 14th Finance Commission, 15th Finance Commission, a lot of committees have said that you first have to define what the essential is, then only you can plan for disinvestment. You can't have random disinvestments. This is going to give mixed signals to the market and the disinvestment plans will fail. Now, why does the government do this? Because having no strategy means randomly the government is deciding what PSU and how much. This random decision is only driven by one factor, that the government has to fulfill its fiscal deficit. Most of the times the government has to show expenditure, has to manage its budget, and this is one of the capital receipts which the government gets from disinvestment. So seeing the immediate needs of what has to be done to manage the budget, the government will announce any disinvestment. So there's no concrete plan behind why are we disinvesting in certain sectors and why are we investing in certain sectors. The only thing that is the objective is being met is that the government wants to control its fiscal deficit. So diluting the shareholding just because to give fiscal deficit or control fiscal deficit. This is why a lot of times newspaper will mention that we are selling the silver or the house gold just for paying the salaries of people. We are diluting the ownership without even thinking what exactly is the reason for it, whether we want to stay or not, just because we want to capture or we want to reduce the fiscal deficit. We want to reduce the borrowings which the government has. Diluting the shareholding for fiscal deficit, no concrete plan. And this is the reason why most of the disinvestment of the government will fail. Because you will not get any participant in these disinvestment. Because there's no concrete plan what exactly is happening. On top of it, the reason why most of the disinvestment never starts from ground is the valuation. Now, before the government starts with any disinvestment, privatization, or even strategic sale, we need to know what is the value of the company. You have to decide what exactly is the share price, at what value should we sell the company. Now, this is highly problematic, this is highly subjective. Why? Because if the share price or the valuation is kept too high, you will have no participation, and if it is kept too low, that means there is. And since the details of a public sector enterprises are not mentioned in the public, they will not be given in the public before they do the IPO or they sell the shares. That means we don't know how the value is being done for the company, how the assets are being valued. Last year, a very important thing happened here with respect to one PSU, which is Central Electronics Limited. Now, the government was trying to sell this PSU, and the price which the government got for this PSU was roughly in the range of 200 to 250 crores. Now, this is strategic disinvestment the government was trying to do, was selling this company to one or two players. Strategic sale the government was trying to do. What happened was an investigative report came in one of the newspapers that Central Electronics Limited has much more value than what the government is selling it for. There were reports that Central Electronics Limited right now itself on its business has orders worth 1500 crores. And not just this, there were a lot of interviews also conducted of the people working in CEL. They talked about how CEL has a lot of land, and most of the land is in Delhi NCR. Ghaziabad mein they have land which on market value is roughly between 450 to 600 crore. इसके लैंड की वैल्यू है, एंड गवर्नमेंट इज सेलिंग इट फॉर the two bids which the government got were between 200 and 250 crores. There was another form of corruption जिसको बेच रहे थे, they were connected to the political party at the center. The second was at what price it was being sold at. Similar thing started right from the first disinvestment also when VSNL was sold to Tatas. VSNL that time had a lot of land. The land was not properly valued and the company was sold for very less amount. So the valuation becomes a very big problem, that how are they deciding the value of the company. The government kept on defending that CEL, the Central Electronics Limited, there were no issues, no problems. When the pressure increased, the government cancelled the disinvestment. This is just one example that you have so many assets with the company and you are selling the company only for peanuts. So the valuation always becomes subjective. This is what happened last year with LIC also. LIC, the government called for disinvestment but could not decide what the share price could be. A too high a share price, that means you will have no subscription. Too low a share price, that means you are selling the company for free. You're giving the shares for free. That means there is some sort of corruption that is happening. This valuation can be made subjective, can be made objective when you involve investment bankers and rest of the experts in the share market. But the government hardly does so, because the government then will have to share the complete data of the PSUs with them. The government does not provide the complete information, and therefore valuation is not done objectively. And when valuation is not done objectively, you don't have a very good interest shown in the market. This is why the government keeps on failing on disinvestment. Same thing happened with Air India. Now Air India also, the problem was valuation. At what price should this be sold at? Air India had cumulative debt of 60,000 crore. Now this debt was taken by the government, then only this company was sold for roughly around 20,000 crore. But again, the clarity with respect to valuation, because Air India has a lot of assets, not just in India, but outside India also. Now, why did the government take the 60,000 crore? Because the government could not tell the right price at which it should be sold. We had been trying since the last 10 to 15 years, 20 years to sell Air India, but we could not do it because of the valuation. Now, finally, when the government did this, when the debt increased so much, the government sold it for 20,000 crore. We don't know whether it is a good price or a bad price, because there was only one buyer in the market. The second bid, which was placed by Indigo, that was 14,000, 15,000, was not a bid which was not competitive. So the problem in disinvestment is that how do you decide your share price? How do you value your company? If it is too low, that means there are instances of corruption. Too high, you don't have any interest from anyone. This is why this getting the right price is the most problematic thing. Year on year, in the last 5 to 10 years, the government has never met its disinvestment target, because first, the government decision with respect to which PSU to select. Consider BPCL was a very random selection. Government has majority of the business in oil marketing companies, but why only one company was chosen? And this is a very profitable business for the government. This is not something which is loss making. Now, do you want to stay or not stay? What is the rationale? It was not made clear. This is why the government till date has not been able to execute this 20%. Announcement was made, budget May, it was counted that yes, 20% money is going to come from BPCL, but nothing happened, because there was no clear decision with respect to how it is going to happen. And the second problem then becomes, how are you going to value the price? If you're going to send 20% out in the market, what exactly would be the share price? So disinvestment, two problems, that you don't decide how exactly to, which sectors to stay and which sectors to move out. It's randomly decided based on controlling the fiscal deficit of the government. Now this is problematic. Why? Because you are diluting the ownership of an asset just to pay the day-to-day expenditures of the government. You're not creating assets. Remember, we discussed disinvestment, the money should be used for productive purposes. If the money is done only for subsidies or expenditures which are day-to-day, such as salaries and pensions, that means you're diluting the ownership of an asset. Your asset is being diluted just for paying salaries. There's no concrete plan behind it why we are doing it. And then when it is decided, this becomes a major problem. This is a recent example. Last year, Central Electronics Limited happened. There was a lot of noise. This is why the government cancelled the disinvestment. Till here also, there was no problem. 150 crores ये land का जब पता चला कि 450 crores, roughly 600 crore का land ही है उनके पास. Then it became a problem for the government, and the government had to cancel it. And most of the PSUs, when were the PSUs established? Most of the PSUs. Second 5-year plan, 1950s, 1960s. Then that is the time period when the PSUs are being started. Most of the prime land in most of the cities have been given to the PSUs. Till date, if you see the Connaught Place area nearby all, you'll find many PSUs having prime land. Telecom, postal, everyone, banks, everyone has prime land in most of the cities. That means their value is significantly high. BSNL has a lot of assets which are in most of the cities and having a lot of value. They're not able to utilize that value because of various reasons, but doesn't mean the company should be sold for so less. Now, why so less? Because participation is less. कि value निकाल पाएंगे नहीं निकाल पाएंगे. So valuation always become a problem because of the subjectiveness and the non-involvement of professional players. Is it clear? Another issue with disinvestment is highly controversial in India, especially privatization. This type of disinvestment becomes problematic. Why? Because the moment government loses control, that means the company is now in the private hands. Privatization means the ownership and management goes in the private sector. And all of those employment which the government created, which were not adding anything. There was a lot of employment given at very good prices by the PSU. Remember, PSUs perform the role of a model employer. They were taking on a lot of cost for the well-being of the employee. Now the private player, when the ownership and management is private player only wants to create profits. And now you will have a very big threat of job loss. And job loss is all the more problematic for the people who are more than 40. Mid-age section यहाँ पे सबसे ज़्यादा problem है because they have not done anything for the last 15 years. The new recruits can still find a job, maybe given a job here itself. They have the capacity to upskill, reskill according to what the demands of the market is. The people above that, you will have a problem in accommodating because they have not increased their skills. They don't know how to do any work. So they are going to lose the job here and they will not be absorbed in the outside market also. This is why privatization is very problematic in India, because the people associate government with a career job that nobody is going to remove. And now that nature is being diluted, the moment it comes in the control of the government, you will have significant job losses. This is why privatization sees a very significant opposition from the public because of the job loss. When the government announced the privatization of PSUs, the government talked about privatizing 3 banks. In fact, IDBI ka government has talked since way past. LIC mein holding hai government ki through in IDBI, but they have not been able to execute it because of this problem. Because of the unions in the banks, they are creating a ruckus that they should not be job losses. So government finds it very difficult to control the job losses. Another problem that can happen with disinvestment is privatization is that you can have a significant loss of welfare. How is loss of welfare? Private players' prices will increase. Anything else? You can just compare it with the example of SBI only. We compared SBI with HDFC. So if SBI is going to be privatized, they are going to rationalize most of their rural branches. Most of the rural branches are loss making. Still the government is doing it. They're going to close down those rural branches. They might not be providing the free government functions, for example, the direct benefit transfer or the Jan Dhan Yojana or the scholarships. So a lot of service will be compromised if it is given to the private. The prices might rise, but the problem is, will the service be made available or not? Remember, private sector will invest in only those sectors which give them a profit where there's a demand. And secondly, they will only go into those areas where there's already created infrastructure. They're not going to go into backward regional areas to create the market. So you will have significant loss of welfare. And welfare is not just in terms of loss of goods and services. The loss of welfare will also happen because when this job loss happens, you are also not going to get the benefits of the social schemes. For example, the policy of affirmative action or reservation. Reservations are there in government employment, Article 16. Now, when it is not government employment, it's private employment, there's no reservation. So you're also going to dilute the nature, and this can have a problem that the inequality might rise. Access to few castes who have better education are going to get into these jobs. This benefit is not going to be provided in privates. This is the reason why you have significant amount of opposition from the public. This is the first two were the reasons why that the government is not able to do its disinvestment. Most of the times the government fails at doing disinvestment. The targets are kept very high, 1.2 crore, 2.1 crore, but they're never able to achieve it because they don't get an interest because there's no plan. But why the disinvestment sees opposition from the people? Because of the threat of job loss and also the loss of welfare. Because the private sector, if it is going to provide, it is going to charge a user fees. User fees means that your public nature of the good might be diluted. If you're providing welfare, non-excludable. आपने जैसी fees लगाई, you have made it excludable. Non-excludable, non-rival, the moment you put a fees, that becomes excludable. Those who have the ability to pay the fees are going to pay it, rest can't. So you can have a significant loss of welfare. This is why it is all the more important to decide what sectors are essential and what are not. The first thing disinvestment has to start with is to decide where we are performing any welfare functions, where we have to stay and where we have to move out. This is then can solve the problem. Is it clear? Another problem with disinvestment, and specifically a case of disinvestment, is in the case of strategic sale. Now what will happen in a case of strategic sale? The government is selling the PSU to just one private player. Now how many private players in any sector will have the capacity to do so? For example, airline, how many players will have the capacity to buy Air India? Maximum 1 or 2 dominant players. And now when you are giving the government PSU to them, you are giving them an opportunity to consolidate their market power. Tata's already has 2 airlines. And now you have a third airline given by the government which has a significant amount of assets. Yes, it is loss making right now, but the company is coming with a significant amount of assets. And the deal is also good because the liabilities of the company has been taken by the government. So that means you have given an opportunity to the Tatas to consolidate their market share. One player has already left the market. Last month, you had one airline player who filed for bankruptcy. Go first. Now you have limited number of players. The same thing you can see in telecom also. There's a reason why the government has said that 5,000 crore rupees we are going to invest, because there are 2 major players in telecom, Airtel and Jio. The one which is able to buy BSNL is going to consolidate its market power. You are going to have a lot of monopoly related issues because you are giving too much of assets. BSNL ka all India asset hai. Everywhere BSNL has assets. Consider the amount of leverage the player will get who is able to buy BSNL. This is why the government has given a signal. Right now we are not thinking about buying or selling BSNL. So this strategic sale is trying to create monopoly-like pressures in the market because the precious assets of the PSUs are being sold to one player. And if it is sold to a foreign player, you might cede strategic control. So strategic sale can have monopoly-like pressures, creating problem for the people later. Natural monopoly we discussed. In those sectors also you are ceding space to private players. If selling the whole company to the private players, and this strategic sale creates market control, how? And this we'll discuss in analysis of 91 reforms also. Government has done a lot of privatization not by design, but privatization by stealth. Now what is privatization by stealth? Good performing companies, government is controlling all PSUs. Good performing companies, if are starved of finances or their management is not made proper, that is, their top positions are kept vacant for 3 to 5 years. If I keep the positions vacant and I don't give them good finances, will the PSU start failing? The PSU start failing and this becomes a good option to now sell them to one private player. So this is not direct privatization the government did saying that it was a loss making. This was privatization by stealth. You starve the PSU of funds, you don't put the top positions here, and automatically the private sector player who is in that market gets the benefit. And later, if the losses keep on continuing, you sell the PSU to that private player. So it's not just creating market control, but by killing the company slowly, you also are doing corruption. And this has happened in a lot of fields. Reliance in the oil sector was given a KG-D6 basin. Now this is where Reliance has earned huge amount of profits getting oil and gas. Now this KG-D6 basin, the initial studies, the initial preparation of the ground, everything was done by ONGC. But the final bid for this block for extraction went to Reliance. So the government decision making can also create privatization by stealth, which will lead to problems that 1 or 2 players will have the maximum market control. So you can kill the PSU slowly, giving control to someone else. So both corruption and then market control. And there is too much of market control. This means you can have a lot of Exploitation. If the government is being influenced by the private players on how to disinvest and what to disinvest, this can create a problem. Consider what has happened. This has absolutely zero logic. Where the government has said that now you will have import licenses for import of laptops. Now what exactly is the logic behind this policy? Whatever Jio has launched, whatever be the reason, but you see the thinking is protectionism. India already suffered a lot till 91 because of protectionism, import substituted. Because the moment you are having import substituted industrialization, this import substituted industrialization means that that product in your market will become very costly. You are getting the best quality product at a very competitive price from the outside market. And the moment you have to buy domestic, you will then get poor quality at a higher price, and you also might not get a very good efficiency. Remember the problems of import substituted. If you're stopping the efficiency from outside, do you have the capacity? Until the time you create that efficiency, the people will have to buy higher price. This is what the private players were complaining, that we have to buy a higher price, poor quality product, our production efficiency is going to be hit. Any day the government imposes a control on any imports through duty, licensing or any restrictions, import duty is virtually an export tax. How does it become an export tax? Consider if the government increases the import duty or gives a license. That means whatever the production unit is, it does not get good quality, cheap imports from outside. That means its cost of production is significantly rising. And if its cost of production is significantly rising, can it export to the outside world? People operating on laptops which have production, their cost of production will rise. Their efficiency will become poor, and therefore can they export whatever they are exporting? So import duty is nothing but an export tax, and in an environment which is too much global right now, globalization, still 91 tak there was not a lot of products that are available at good quality, but now you have too much of quality and technology outside India. If you impose such type of policies, your manufacturers or your economy, the consumers are going to suffer. Same thing, if you're going to influence by the private players into which PSUs to sell. Consider this example of Central Electronics Limited. When the Central Electronics Limited is a good performing company, what is the reason for privatizing it? What exactly is the reason? Is it considered essential or not? If there is no decision on it, what is the reason for privatizing it, selling it for cheap dirt prices to a private competitor? So this policy of disinvestment can be influenced by the private players, which is going to give them a significant amount of market control, which today might not be a problem, but if this market control is not regulated by the Competition Commission of India, if you don't have good regulation capacity, then you are going to see exploitation. See, monopoly or market control might not be bad. It can also give you good services. For example, Jio has a lot of market control. It is providing good services. But if your regulation stops, if you don't have good powers to control them, then the exploitation can begin. So market control can happen naturally also, but you have to have regulatory powers over it. And this is an opportunity to get market control. Is it clear what are the problems with disinvestment? You can write down this. No, railway is not strategic sale. We are not selling anything in railways. Railways को तो हम ऐसे धीरे-धीरे खत्म करेंगे. This is what, if you see the expenditure strategies of the government, where exactly are they spending the money? So if railway is not able to provide services, people will shift to alternate mediums. Airlines has boosted so much because the railways was not being able to provide good service. Most of the logistics in India, more than 60% of logistics in India happens through road, because railway does not provide good service. And now this will become a case of privatizing railways or bringing in private rail. This is how you make the case of privatization or disinvestment, that it is not performing well. But why is it not performing well? Nobody is going to go into the reasons for it. It could be by design that it is not performing well. This is what SBI employees, the banks they did a lot of protests, took a lot of pay cuts. They explained this whole situation that if SBI is going to give the maximum Jan Dhan Yojana accounts, if the SBI is going to give the scholarships, that means the footfall which the SBI is going to have is going to be significantly more than what private companies have. I will definitely have more customers coming to my office than as compared to HDFC offices. And in that scenario, if you don't give me the employees, if the work has to be done by 20 employees and in the office there are only 5 employees, they are the one which is taking all the burden. There's no incentive for them to work. They're not getting anything beyond the salary. आधे टेबल क्यों खाली हैं? Because recruitment time पे नहीं हो रही है. So if you're not giving them the manpower plus the investment strategy is such, what is stopping SBI or any of the public sector banks from accepting technology? कोई बहुत बड़ा टेक्नोलॉजी तो एक्सेप्ट करना नहीं है. Private banks have also done the same, but why they are not doing it? Because there are no resources provided to them to do this activity. Because owner is government. How is it possible that HDFC is able to run a very smooth site and the same function is not being performed by any of the public sector bank? Why is their server down? Server तो मतलब ऐसा क्या है? So if you are starving them of funds and you take management decisions where recruitment is stalled, that means you are trying to kill the company slowly. And this can happen in a lot of cases. It might be performing an essential function, but by design, you might be starving them of funds and causing problems so that you get an opportunity to sell the company to someone else. VSNL BSE 97, when it was sold to Tatas, it was a similar case. VSNL that was sold at roughly 500-600 crores. Us time pe VSNL ka land was more than 1,000 crores. Because all these PSUs, when they have been established, there was no significant development. So हर जगह, हर city में prime land इन्हीं के पास है. Everywhere. See in Delhi also. Delhi में अशोका रोड पे in the corner, Department of Post does nothing. Nobody is sending letters now. कोई भी नहीं भेज रहा चिट्ठियाँ. फिर भी you see the level of land they have. Banks, SBI, PNB, any city you go, major cities में, they'll have 4-story, 3-story in a quite vast amount of space. So land, definitely they have a lot of land apart from the capital assets which they own. BSNL is the major company which is doing the National Optical Fiber Network. सारा का सारा capital infrastructure BSNL का है. And in this scenario, if one of the players gets the BSNL at very less prices, you are going to see a lot of market control. The second player is going to go out of business. You'll see this in airlines also. Rest of the players apart from Indigo, everyone's going to go out of business. Because if Tata's has too much of market control, they will get pricing power. And the only sustainable company in front of them then is Indigo. Rest of the players will be destroyed. Same thing happened in telecom also. Due to certain government policies, telecom, if you see 2000s, telecom had so many different players. You had Uninor, you had Reliance, not Jio, the previous Reliance. You had 5-6 different types of players where you could have bought a SIM. Now you see you only have 2 options. The third one, Vodafone and all, because of the government policy is already out the market. You only have 2 options. A player which had roughly 10 players in 2000s, now there is only 2 players. Airlines also, there were too many options, now you'll only find 2 options. Either Vistara will sell tickets or you will have this. Jet Airways already because of certain corruption left the market, Kingfisher left the market. Now, go first. SpiceJet में वैसी आग लग रही है. There already nobody is trusting SpiceJet. It will also 1 year, 2 year, one of the 2 players is going to buy. That means you are giving a lot of market control to few players. And if there is no regulation that is created, you are going to have monopolies, which are going to then exploit. Dhire prices will rise. The tickets will get costly because you won't have an option. Indigo definitely increased the price from flights coming out of Odisha, citing that there is supply and demand. कि demand बढ़ चुकी है, supply नहीं है. Supply क्यों नहीं है? क्योंकि player ही 2 हैं. The major reason why you can't increase the supply, price will come when there's more competition. There's no competition because the government policy has created such a field that market control is now with only 2 players. Is it clear? Write down issues with this. तो अगर मैं काफ़ी पॉलिसीज की अगर यहीं पे जेट किंगफिशर 5 प्लेयर्स होते हैं, आई वुड नॉट हैव द प्राइसिंग पावर टू प्राइस इट एट 60,000. आई वुड नो दैट समवन विल सेट एट अ लोअर प्राइस because I have more players. Efficient, any market when has more players, you have a ability to have a competitive price. Maximum choice, maximum price का choice आ जाएगा because anyone is producing efficiently. The functions are efficient. Why do you think Kingfisher left the market? Or why Jet Airways left the market? Jet Airways was quite a profitable business few years back. Because of certain processes, they had to leave. Rest Indigo भी तो has started from the ground. Has started from scratch. How are they so profitable? Business तो same ही है. Jet ने भी वही करना था. Indigo ने भी वही करना है. The companies exist नहीं कर रही ना. This is what I'm saying. Monopoly can get the power. If I would have 5 companies, you would not have market control by 1. Situation create हो गई, they exploited the situation. But अगर 5 player होते, they would not get the opportunity to do that. And now government is creating the opportunity for them that we are going to give you these assets. And BSNL someday the government is going to sell. It is going to go to one of the players. And the player which is going to get BSNL, it is going to drive the second player out of the market. Because the level of assets PSUs have are incomparable. At a very early stage, they had been started. So they have a lot of assets right now. Business is not profitable because we discussed how management decisions are taken in PSUs. How the work culture are. We discussed problems of PSU. So despite having assets, they can't utilize the assets because of a lot of problems. But private sector can put them to good use. But private sector, would it be beneficial for the people in the longer run? That is a question mark. Is it clear? Write down. ये भी reference दे दिया, I'll explain again. Wait for it. Write down first. Issues with or challenges of disinvestment. हाँ, आकाशा एयर भी आई है, but it's a very small airline right now. Challenges of disinvestment. Issues or challenges of disinvestment. First, the choice of PSU. The choice of PSU and the quantum of disinvestment is not backed by a concrete plan. Is not backed by a concrete plan. Second, the proceeds of disinvestment are used to meet the fiscal deficit targets of the government and not invested in any productive purposes. And are not invested in any of the productive purposes. Next, the valuation of the company to be disinvested, is not done objectively in most of the cases. Undervaluation leads to significant losses for the government. Undervaluation leads to significant losses for the government. For this, just read once the CEL case, Central Electronics Limited. Just Google it and you will understand what the problem of valuation is and how the whole process was conducted and how the problem happened, and then the government had to cancel this disinvestment. Because the moment you have pressures that it is being sold for less, you will not be able to do it. LIC का right price ही नहीं मिल रहा, इसलिए the disinvestment takes so much time. BPCL, the government has no plan why it is trying to do it, and therefore they are not able to first value, then come out with a plan for disinvestment. So they announce a lot of disinvestment, but are not able to conduct it. One problem is this. The second problem then becomes job loss and the related controversies. Right, the next, privatization of government companies. Privatization of government companies might lead to job losses and lead to job loss, loss of social security, and dilution of social welfare policies of the government. In bracket, write down reservation policy. Next, strategic sale provides an opportunity. to the dominant player in the sector, provides an opportunity to the dominant player in the sector to control market power or to consolidate market power which in the absence of adequate regulation might lead to exploitation of consumers. Is it clear what are the problems of disinvestment? You can write one more. Disinvestment can also lead to compromise of welfare as the private sector may not provide the essential goods. For the majority of the population. May not provide the essential goods for the majority of the population. Is it clear? In fact, you can quote the example here of the arsenic contamination. There are certain parts where you don't have the basic filtration policies. You have arsenic contaminated water, people dying of cancers. And on the other hand, you have water 500 rupees 1 liter. People who have the capacity to pay, उनके लिए direct भर लाएंगे glacier से. But those who have the capacity, they will not get anything. Basic level of filtration will also not happen. This is how the private market operates. Is it clear the problems, the whole idea of disinvestment? नहीं, availability नहीं, capability. पहले decide करो कि LIC insurance is a important sector or not. Right? Then only you choose LIC. Government ने LIC क्यों choose किया? What is the reason? So profitable, whatever. Disinvestment किस लिए करता है, whether profitable or not? We want to be in business, right? But we also know that there is a role of PSU. That means there are essential services also. Now first decide whether insurance is essential or not. First decide banking essential or not. Oil marketing companies are essential or not. Then decide the quantum of disinvestment. But why the government did? Why do you think LIC government chose LIC or BPCL? Government thought easily हो जाएगा ना, क्योंकि loss making PSUs को कौन लेगा जल्दी से? Profit making PSUs, it's very easy to do. So if I want to meet the fiscal deficit target, I know that I'm going to have a shortfall. Revenue is not going to come. Why not make a profitable business जिसका subscription बहुत जल्दी हो जाएगा market में, जो आसान होगा करना. So that means the only logic I'm doing disinvestment for is to get money for paying the salaries. This is why often you newspapers mention this, selling the family's gold or selling the family's silver just for paying the salaries. Day to day expenditures के लिए आप asset dilute कर रहे हो अपना. You're selling of your home just to play Dream 11. Right? Day to day expenditures. Pizza खाने का मन है तो गाड़ी बेच दो. Dilution of assets for day to day expenditures. This is what the problem is. You have to have a logic. This is what 14th 5-year plan said, 14th Finance Commission said. It was a recommendation that you create 4 subsectors or 4 classification of PSUs, high priority and where you are performing welfare functions. ऐसे करके 4 वो डिफाइड कर लो और जो सबसे हाई प्रायोरिटी वेलफेयर है वहीं पे रहो, बाकी सबको धीरे धीरे बेचने की कोशिश करो. Now this is a plan. This gives a signal to the market, yes, you don't want to be in business. But right now, if your only thinking is that I want to meet the fiscal deficit target, then you will not be able to disinvest. There's no logic why the government said BPCL. This is why you see BPCL was announced 2 years back. Bank was announced 3 years back. What has happened? There is no plan because the government knows there will be no subscription. और इस scenario में अगर सस्ता कुछ बेचा, then you have the 4 C's. Code, CVC, CBI, and there's one more addition to it. Because there would be certain corruption अगर under valuation, तो सही valuation. और problem ये है valuation आप सही करोगे कैसे? फिर वही bona fide mistake and mala fide intention. Disinvestment never starts from the ground. This is one policy which has failed miserably after 91. LPG में privatization disinvestment था, PSUs बड़ी ही हैं, कम नहीं हुई है. Something which we had to stop doing because of the inefficiencies. Consider we took 25 years to sell Air India. 25 years. See, we don't care about profit or loss. Idea is whether we want to be in business or not. वो essential है कि नहीं है. Profit loss से मतलब नहीं है. And for that also we will have to come up with strategies because loss-making PSUs will not have a lot of interest from the market. So उसमें mix करना पड़ेगा profit loss making both that you will have to do. You will have to find out mechanisms. For example, अब जैसे इसमें mechanism है, job loss के लिए government tries to do a lot of things. Because the government knows job loss will happen. So now government will do in the disinvestment or privatization, what they will do is, whenever they will sell the shares, they'll make a condition that for 3 years there will be no job loss, freeze कर देंगे. Or they give a very good VRS. So they try to create certain conditions so that they become acceptable. तो ऐसी strategies बनानी पड़ेंगी, but सबसे पहले आपको ये सोचना ही पड़ेगा ना कि कहाँ है, कहाँ नहीं होना है. Until and unless you have this, none of the things will happen again. None of the things will happen after this. बट ये नहीं है तो हमेशा प्रॉब्लम रहेगी. टारगेट्स हमेशा डिसइन्वेस्टमेंट के ज्यादा होंगे, वो कभी अचीव नहीं होंगे. बिकॉज इफ इवन इफ दिस इज सॉर्टेड देन यू ऑल्सो हैव टू गो विद दिस एंड देन यू ऑल्सो हैव टू मीट द पीपल्स डिमांड, people who are working and people who are being served by that service. Very simple. SBI, if there are 5 branches in particular area, it has been created by the government. Now private sector will think why not create just one branch, उसी branch में सारे हो जाएंगे, तो density वहीं कम होगी. Density वहीं services are affected, and this will happen when PDS was given cash grains of cash instead of food grains in various union territories. The first problem of the people was that we have to stand in the line of the bank to get the money, and banks were quite far away from their home. And in this scenario where the government is now shifting for DBT for everything, and you are privatizing the banks, who is going to make sure that the bank is available at that point? We discussed this in one, cash versus indirect subsidy. One point was that even if you get the cash, do you have the supply chain of the product is available to you or not? Private market will never open up in areas where the density is poor because profit नहीं है. वो loss making पे अपना unit क्यों चलाएंगे? Public sector banks nationalization till 30 years had significant losses because they were operating branches which did not give profit. Because you have to have the manpower, but you don't have a lot of people who are saving. You don't have a people who are taking loans. तो वो branch loss making है. Private खोलेगा ही नहीं वहाँ पे. तो वो service effect होगी कि नहीं होगी. तो ये सारी चीजें सोच के ही you can then do with disinvestment. This is one part. Liberalization हुआ है, globalization हुआ है, privatization has failed miserably. PSUs are only increasing, they're not decreasing. And we don't know why we are doing it. Consider what the government has done. BSNL में they have said 5,000. Vodafone से पैसे लेने हैं because of retrospective tax. The government has taken 35% shareholding in Vodafone because the Vodafone said we can't pay. Now government is 35% shareholder of Vodafone. What is the government going to do with that? There's no strategy how exactly you have to move in certain sector because आपके goals short term आप पूरे कर रहे हो उससे. So you can't sell the PSU for short-term goals only. This is why the opposition keeps on creating pressure. Tell us the policy. Any opposition. It's not just this political party. Every political party, the opposition keeps on asking कि idea क्या है? LIC बेच रहे हो, SBI बेच रहे हो, idea क्या है? Is it clear? Disinvestment and the issues related. So the whole topic of privatization, the state-controlled PSU, and also disinvestment. Can you now attempt an answer on this? Why we need PSUs, why PSUs fail, and why disinvestment is required and why disinvestment fails. So the whole perspective of PSUs or state-led enterprises can be now answered in any of the sectors. Is it clear? The next set of reforms was globalization reforms. And this is what happened. This was the first step that happened after the Prime Minister came to power. And this is where the moment the first step happened, no confidence motion was introduced. Now what was the trade sector reforms? We discussed trade sector mein India had a problem that India had significantly high amounts of import duty, FDI restrictions. Import not just duty but we also had licensing for imports and also we had quota norms. In fact, licensing for imports, India does not have any major product which has license. So this is why this step by the government on laptops is very problematic कि licensing import की तो किसी भी product के लिए नहीं है. And how come we have introduced? We dismantled the licensing regime for import in 91. This is why this is very confusing. Why exactly did the government bring out this? Yes, Atmanirbhar Bharat, self-reliant, but you will have shocks. Critical material. So trade sector reforms, what was being done? The first thing which was done was they devalued the currency. Devaluation of the currency, roughly 19 to 20% the currency was devalued. This is the second devaluation. The first devaluation, 37%, happened by which government? Indira Gandhi government. This is the second devaluation. Now this becomes very political. In India, devaluation is not acceptable, because somehow the value of the rupee is compared with national pride. So this becomes a problem. This became highly political, what happened with devaluation. In fact, before what happens with devaluation, why it became political. What are the impacts of devaluation? Why devaluation is important? Why devaluation was done? Now consider, if we are devaluing the currency from $1 is equal to 30 rupees to $1 is equal to rupees 40. That means rupee is losing value. When this loss of value is done through the RBI, this is called as devaluation. And this time period, India's exchange rate dollar is to rupee was managed by RBI. India did not have market exchange rate like we have right now. Right now, the value of rupee to dollar is based on the supply and demand of dollar. Price of any good is based on supply and demand of that good. Similarly, price of dollar is based on supply and demand of dollar in the economy. But 91, we had control of RBI. They used to decide what the price will be. And now RBI, when reduces the value, this is called as devaluation. When this fall in value happens due to market, this is depreciation. There are two terms. When the RBI leads to fall in value, this is called as devaluation. And if this loss of value happens because of market supply and demand forces, it is called as depreciation. Devaluation hota hai jab official action involved hai. When it is happening through market, it is depreciation. Is it clear? The impact of these two will be the same. The impact on the economy will be the same. Now what will be the impact on the economy? Consider this is the case where the value has been lost from 30 to 40. Now in this case, if the government is, or if the economy is exporting a good, export will be made in Indian rupees. For example, a shirt is being made for rupees 120. What will be the price of the shirt in dollar terms in the first scenario? $4? बहुत मुश्किल मैथ्स नहीं है. 120 by 30. Is it clear? 4 into 3. In the second case? In which case are we going to sell more quantity of shirts? $3? That means devaluation or depreciation of the currency has made my product competitive. That means I can now sell more shirts. Without changing anything, my shirt in the outside market got competitive, lesser priced. I can sell more quantity. More quantity means I will be doing more. More exports means more dollar payments in the country. So that means the volume of dollar will increase in the economy. Devaluation or depreciation is increasing the quantity of exports, leading to more supply of dollars in the economy. India में यही problem थी 91 तक. There was no supply. Consider the case of imports. If India is importing $100 worth of oil, imports happen in dollar, exports happen in this, payment is received in dollars. Now imports is happening in $100. What is the price of imports in the first case? For a producer here, the price is, and in the second case? Now if the price of the imports is increasing for an importer because of the fall in value, will I reduce the quantity of imports I do? Or will I look for substitutes where I can save price? In both the cases, will the imports fall? This means the demand for dollar in my economy will reduce. This is why devaluation or depreciation helps. That your import burden reduces and export improves. The supply of dollar improves and demand gets reduced. This is why we devalue or depreciate the currency. South Korea, Taiwan, Japan, China, they by purpose depreciated their currency so that they can have more exports. सबने अपनी devalue currency पे exports किए हैं. India में this move is quite political This is why we never could devalue. Devaluation moves to the market rate, though it is beneficial like this. Your exports will rise and your imports will fall. For 20 years, China kept its currency depreciated just to do more exports. Because the moment you depreciate, you see how benefits you're getting. So countries which have grown on the back of exports had always kept a weak currency. Because this weak currency becomes an inhibitor of imports and becomes promoter of exports. Your companies will try to create competitiveness. India, because devaluation was always equated with national pride, and when the first devaluation was done by the government, the first devaluation was done because of the conditionality imposed by the IMF. We got the money, we first did the conditions, but we did not get the complete money. So we were cheated by IMF and World Bank, we were not received the complete money despite doing the conditionality. So second devaluation was very difficult, because of the prior experience and how devaluation is seen in the Indian economy politically. So this was very difficult to do. In fact, what happened, difficulty here was that devaluation first happened in two steps. The first devaluation happened of 7 to 8%. And this devaluation was only known to the Prime Minister, the RBI Governor and the Finance Minister, not even the President or Cabinet, nobody knew about this. But when this happened, there was a huge problem in the economy, problem in the political, not economic problem. Politically, this became a problem, and a no confidence motion was placed in the parliament. The government was a minority government. It was saved only because now globalization ke reforms pe or even privatization ke reforms pe, both left and the right parties, that is CPI and the BJP, are against the Congress. But the problem which CPI saw was that if we vote along with the BJP, that will be a problem for them. They did not want themselves to be seen with the BJP. So during the no confidence motion, CPI walked out. CPI walked out and the Congress government survived. This is where the second devaluation then happened of 12 to 13% this. In fact, after the first devaluation, the Prime Minister tried to stop the devaluation. In fact, they had a code word for this. Very interesting story. They had a code word for this, that first we are going to hop, then we are going to see the national mood, and then we are going to jump. The Prime Minister, when made the hop, there was a lot of ruckus. He called and said, skip the jump, don't make the jump. The RBI Governor, I've already made the jump. The motion, the process has started. And devaluation happened to this just because CPI did not want to be with BJP. The government was saved. But this was a very important step that had to be done. Devaluation, we wanted to increase the exports and reduce the quantity of imports. Is it clear how devaluation helps? This will become a problem. Import bill बढ़ जाएगा. इसमें और this is the basic relation. I'll show you how this relation can become problematic. What if your quantity does not improve? What if this quantity you are not able to reduce? This can become a problem. If your imports are certain goods which don't have any substitute, for example oil, devaluation or depreciation से आपका import bill बढ़ जाएगा. But future में you will definitely find ways to reduce it. I'll discuss this when we discuss exchange rates. Just understand the basics. Exports will always lead to supply of dollars and imports will lead to this. RBI can intervene. नहीं. Is this clear? What is devaluation and how it does it impact? What benefit it is giving? The second thing which the government did under the trade sector reforms was the government reduced significantly the import duties. And most of the goods, the quota was removed, and the government also removed the licensing. One of the problems in the trade sector was that the import duty was significantly high, that is average of 250-300%. The government reduced the import duty significantly, removed a lot of quota restrictions, and also removed licensing. Now, to remove the licensing, what the government did was, now government thought that if you are going to reduce import duty and quota, and still the outside play or still the domestic players are going to stand in line in front of the ministry to get the license, there's no point removing these controls. Because license is also an inhibitor for imports. So they removed the license. How? They introduced a concept which was there for 2 years called the concept of EXIM scrip. That is export-import scrip. Export-import, just like a slip, this was a duty scrip. What happened here was that if any exporter makes $100 worth of export, 30% of this value, he can import freely without license. And if he doesn't want this, so government is going to issue him a scrip of 30% of his value of exports. That means 30% आप ये import कर सकते हो without any restrictions or permissions. That means any exporter doing whatever export, 30% value वो import कर सकता है, government उसको एक exempt scrip issue करेगी. And if this exporter doesn't want to do this import, he can sell this exempt scrip in the market. ये एक slip ही है, online या the government is going to give you physically. You can sell this in the market. Now whoever wants to import can buy this from you. That means we removed licensing and now we have a market-based system where the scrip can be traded between players. Licensing is removed. This scrip will be available. So for example, इस exporter के पास $30 worth of import है. He doesn't want to import. He can sell in the market. Any importer A can say, I'm ready to buy this scrip for say $10, $1, whatever the price. That means he can now import that quantity. The scrip is being sold in the market. जितनी सप्लाई डिमांड होगी उस हिसाब से स्क्रिप का प्राइस हो जाएगा. कितना कर पाओगे? 30% ऑफ द वैल्यू ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट. सो वी आर मूविंग फ्रॉम अ गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल लाइसेंसिंग रिजीम टू अ मार्केट सिस्टम वेर यू डोंट हैव टू टेक परमिशंस. 30% of your value of exports is what you can import freely without any permission. If you don't want to do it, sell in the market. इसका सप्लाई और डिमांड होगा, बहुत सारे एक्सपोर्टर्स होंगे, बहुत सारे इंपोर्टर्स हैं. Whatever the supply demand factors would be, price of that scrip will be decided. You are free to import, no license. This mechanism was introduced for 2 years, 91 to 93. Is it clear what the exempt scrip is? %30 नहीं, उसने जो भी एक्सपोर्ट किया उसका 30% अमाउंट का वो इंपोर्ट करा सकता है without a license. Earlier we had license for imports. Now there's no license. You can import 30% the value of exports you're doing. For example, an exporter came to the government or registered a sale on the government website of $1,000 that we have done $1,000 export की payment हमें मिली है. That means the government is going to issue them a slip and say this exporter can import $300 worth of goods without anyone's permission. ये slip मुझे मिल गई है. अगर मुझे स्लिप यूज करनी है तो आई कैन इंपोर्ट. वॉट इफ आई डोंट वांट टू यूज, आई कैन सेल दिस इन द मार्केट. नाउ लॉट ऑफ एक्सपोर्टर्स विल बी सेलिंग स्लिप्स, दोज हु डोंट वांट. इंपोर्टर्स हु वांट इट, हैव नो एक्सपोर्ट्स, दे विल बाय इट. तो इस स्लिप का एक प्राइस निकल आएगा, प्रीमियम निकल आएगा कि 10 रुपये में मुझे तो 20 रुपये में, जितनी ज़्यादा सप्लाई है, जितनी डिमांड है, उस हिसाब से प्राइस होगा. इस प्रोसेस में यू डोंट हैव टू टेक एनी. आइडिया वॉज कि अगर हम इंपोर्ट सस्ते करें, ड्यूटी हटाएं और लाइसेंस लगा दें, देयर इज नो पॉइंट ऑफ रिड्यूसिंग, देन यू हैव टू वेस्ट टाइम. क्योंकि लाइसेंसिंग में अगेन एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रेड टेपिज्म, रेंट सीकिंग, एवरीथिंग इज गॉट इंट्रोड्यूस्ड. ड्यूटी कम है बट लाइसेंस है, दिस बिकम्स अ प्रॉब्लम. कि सस्ता है बट लाइसेंस लेना पड़ रहा है. लाइसेंस कैसे मिलता है? कंप्लीट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन. नाउ द गवर्नमेंट इज सेइंग नो लाइसेंस. एक्सपोर्टर्स को हम एक ऑटोमेटिक स्लिप जनरेट करेंगे. स्लिप का नाम था एक्सपोर्ट इंपोर्ट स्क्रिप. ट्रेड में यूज करते हैं द लैंग्वेज स्क्रिप. इन इंडिया वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ डिफरेंट स्क्रिप मैकेनिज्म. फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर एक्सपोर्टर ने $100 वर्थ ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट किए, जितने भी उसको टैक्स भरे हैं इसने एक्सपोर्टर ने, तो हम वो टैक्स भी उसको वापस दिलवाते हैं. दैट इज कॉल्ड एज अ ड्यूटी स्क्रिप और अ टैक्स स्क्रिप. एक्सपोर्टर ने जब $100,000 का जो भी प्रोडक्ट बेचा है बाहर, उसने उसमें टैक्स भरा हुआ इंडियन गवर्नमेंट को, तो इंडियन गवर्नमेंट सारा टैक्स वापस करती है. दिस इज कॉल्ड अ टैक्स स्क्रिप. Similarly, exempt scrip, if you want to, you are an exporter, if you want to import, 30% will be given. You don't want to do it, sell this to anyone in the market. So this is what we want to make the system free. Reward नहीं है, system free करना है कि import easily कर लो. Import has a lot of benefits, so do it freely, because we have seen the problem of import substituted, no import substitution. Problem ये था कि अगर हम ड्यूटी कम कर रहे हैं, कोटा हटा रहे हैं, बट अगर लाइसेंस रखें तो कुछ चेंज नहीं हो रहा है. So लाइसेंस कैसे हटाया? exempt scrip. Is it clear what the idea of exempt scrip is? Liberalizing imports by removing licensing. How? 30% we are slightly doing. 2 साल ये किया है. I'll tell you what happened then. Now another thing that happened was with respect to exchange rate. Now what happened with respect to exchange rate? Till 91, India had a mechanism of fixed exchange rate, which meant the RBI was determining what will be the value of $1 with respect to rupee. The price of the dollar was not done as per the market principles. The price of the dollar was set by the RBI, whatever price the RBI thought we should keep. So if the RBI says $1 is equal to rupees 40, this will be the price of the dollar in the Indian market. Under fixed exchange rate systems, the central bank of the country determines the exchange rate. It could choose any reason, but it determines the exchange rate. And to maintain this exchange rate, it can control the supply of dollar. कुछ रीजंस की वजह से डॉलर पे और रुपी पे प्रेशर होता है, सप्लाई कंट्रोल करके वी आर गोइंग टू रिमूव द प्रेशर एंड मेंटेन दिस वैल्यू. We are not going to let the rupee value move up down. We are going to maintain this value by controlling the supply. This is a fixed exchange rate system where the RBI controls the rupee movement with having supply of dollars. Is it clear? नहीं, मार्केट के हिसाब से नहीं, हमने जो बोला वही प्राइस है. There is no market. For example, RBI ने बोल दिया 40 रुपीज है. Due to some reasons, this is the demand curve, this is the supply. Due to some reason, supply कम हो गया, तो आपका प्राइस 40 से 45 चला जाएगा. सप्लाई कम हो गया, कर्व मूव्स अपवर्ड्स. आई विल एक्सप्लेन हाउ इट मूव्स, बट जस्ट अंडरस्टैंड, ऐसा हो जाएगा. ये जब हो गया तो what the RBI will do is RBI will supply the excess dollars and make the curve move back so that movement is 40 only. RBI मूव नहीं करने देगा एक्सचेंज रेट को. यही एक्सचेंज रेट है जो हमने सेट किया है. तो अगर प्रेशर बढ़ता है, कम होता है, जाता है, हम यहां पर वापस लेके आएंगे, हम सप्लाई कंट्रोल करेंगे. वी आर गोइंग टू कंट्रोल एवरीथिंग. द सप्लाई ऑफ डॉलर विद इज अस. फेरा, रिमेंबर, कोई परमिशन डिमांड पे भी कंट्रोल करेंगे. क्या यूज करोगे, क्या नहीं करोगे, सप्लाई तो कंट्रोल हमारा ही है. मार्केट से कोई मतलब नहीं. गवर्नमेंट ने बोल दिया तेल 50 का मिलेगा, बस. अब वो महंगा आ रहा है, सस्ता आ रहा है, वो आरबीआई देखेगा. वी आर नॉट, वी हैव टू गिव दिस. गवर्नमेंट हैज सेड दिस इज द प्राइस, वी आर गोइंग टू मेंटेन दिस प्राइस. वो हमारी हेडेक है कैसे मेंटेन करें. दैट्स इट. दिस वाज द मैकेनिज्म इन इंडिया टिल 91. इफ आई वांट टू रिड्यूस दिस वैल्यू, that is devaluation, which I talked about. India did twice, 67 and 91. Is it clear? Till 91, India has a system of fixed exchange rate. In 1993, India moved to a market exchange rate. Market exchange rate means the exchange rate will not be decided by the RBI. The exchange rate will be decided by the demand and supply of dollar. There are two exchange rate systems, one where the central bank decides it, and second when the market decides it. In India, 1993, we moved from fixed exchange rate to market. Now market में जो भी supply demand होगा, उसी हिसाब से आपको price मिलेगा. For example, last year, a lot of people were taking money out of India. When they took out the money from outside India, the supply reduced. Supply reduced, the price of the dollar went from 70 to no, RBI is not controlling. ये 70-80 कहाँ से आया है? Market. In India, we moved from a fixed exchange rate system to a market-based exchange rate. This is administrative, this is market. In between, for 1 year, 92 to 93, India had a system called liberalized exchange rate management system. Under liberalized exchange rate management system, 40% of your dollar, if you have $100, 40% of your dollar will be converted at RBI rate, and 60% of your dollar will be given at market rate. एक साल के लिए हमने दोनों सिस्टम भी साथ में चलाए. So if an exporter has $100, 40% will be converted at RBI rate. In fact, has to be given to the RBI. 60% to market. Then we shifted to 100% market. So in India, exchange rate has been liberalized from fixed exchange rate to a market rate. In between, for 1 year, we had liberalized exchange rate management system. Benefit market rate, you decide as per the market, supply, demand. This is very problematic because we have artificially increased the price. Market rate India में तब होना चाहिए था 60 rupees and what RBI kept was rupees 30. और अगर आपने artificial appreciation रखी तो export का नुकसान, import सस्ते. The opposite of this. if my value should have been 40, but I kept the price at 30 because RBI thinks this is what we are going to keep, will the opposite of this happen? Imports will become cheap, exports will become competitive, expensive, no exports, total import. This is the problem. So let the market decide what happens. This is why we moved from fixed exchange rate to a market exchange rate. Is this clear how this is happening? Fixed exchange rate is the RBI decision. Market exchange rate is on the supply demand of dollar. 1 year, 60% market, 40% RBI. गवर्नमेंट का ही इंटरफेरेंस, आरबीआई का ही इंटरफेरेंस है. नोबडी एल्स इज डिसाइडिंग, इट्स द आरबीआई ओनली. अगर फिक्स्ड है तो समवन इज फिक्सिंग, राइट? दिस इज फ्री. इज इट क्लियर? वी आर डिसाइडिंग exchange rate. We are deciding what the exchange rate should be. We, according to our policy of import substitute or whatever, we are deciding the fixed exchange rate. It should ideally be market exchange rate. Is it clear how we were moving from fixed to market? We'll discuss the other dynamics when we discuss exchange rate. Right now, just a reference ke fixed se market aa gaye the. And when we came from fixed to market, the government also removed the EXIM scrip mechanism. And now, removal of EXIM scrip, that is moving from licensing to EXIM scrip, the government introduced a concept which is called as free convertibility. What does convertibility mean? With the rest of the world, you have your transactions. A domestic country's transaction with the rest of the world are recorded in its balance of payment. A country's transactions with the rest of the world are recorded in the balance of payment accounts. There are two heads under balance of payment account. One is the current account and the other is a capital account. Now, what is the difference between the two? Anything that has an impact on asset or liability of the company, of the country, that will be part of capital account. For example, if a company takes loan from outside, will it be recorded under current or capital? It will be recorded under capital account. So what gets included under capital account is the level of investment in the country. Why investment? Foreign direct investment is creating an asset. That becomes a capital account. Any loans you take, that become a capital account. People from outside India depositing money in banks, NRIs opening account in India, all of this is having an impact on my asset liability. Anything that does not change asset liability, our day-to-day transactions will be recorded on current account. For example, import or export of goods and services. For example, any remittances I get. All of this have no impact on my asset liability. This is my current account. No impact on asset liability of my country, that is current account. If there is an impact on asset liability, it's a capital account. This is a broad classification, इसमें और भी है. Now what the government did when it introduced market exchange rate was that whatever happens under current account, the currency is freely convertible. That means any dollar to rupee or rupee to dollar you can do without any permission or any no restriction, no permission. जितना import करना करो, जितना export करना remittances, whatever you want to do, there is absolutely no permission, no restriction. You can convert the currency freely. Only on current account transactions. For capital account transactions, we don't allow free conversion. There are restrictions. So when we introduced a unified market exchange rate, we allowed full convertibility on current account. No permission for any import, no permission for any export. Convert your currency whatever you want. Remember, EXIM script में सिर्फ 30% allowed था. Do whatever conversion you want. For current account purposes. Capital account, there are restrictions. So 3 things government is introducing in 91. The government, after devaluation, introduces EXIM script to replace license. Then the government liberates the exchange rate, its market exchange rate. And the moment market exchange rate is brought, now we have full convertibility on current account. Convertibility means the freedom to convert the currency. Is there any restriction or permission? No restriction, no permission, free convertible. If there are restrictions, it is partially convertible. In capital account, we have partial convertibility. In current account, we have full convertibility. This is what were the most important reforms to open up the country to the outside world. Is it clear what the reforms were? Any doubts with any of the reforms? Why devaluation is being done? Is devaluation clear? Makes the export competitive, makes the imports costly. So I will have to find a way to reduce the imports and increase the exports. Reduce the duties, removed quotas, and licensing was removed. Licensing was replaced by exempt scrip. 30% I can import without any permission, and I can sell that in the market also. Exchange rate moving from fixed exchange rate where RBI decides to a market exchange rate where market determines. Is it clear? सप्लाई डिमांड ऑफ डॉलर, जितना डॉलर है आपकी इकोनॉमी में, जो सप्लाई है, जो डिमांड है, वो प्राइस डिसाइड करेगी. Nobody else is deciding. For example, right now 73, 74, whatever the price is, it's based on supply and demand. It's based nothing. RBI is not determining. In fact, what the role of RBI here is, when it is a market exchange rate, the demand and supply of the dollar is deciding the price, just like any other good. Now, what is the role of RBI here? India, this when market determines it freely, this system is called as a free float. That is, exchange rate is floating freely as per the market. In a fixed exchange rate was decided by whom? The central bank or RBI. In a market exchange rate, the exchange rate is decided by market. That means it is freely floating whatever the price is. Supply demand जैसे change होगा, price रोज change होगा because of supply demand. There the price will not allow to change. It's the RBI. In India we have a system which is called as managed float. Now, what is managed float? It has features of both. The price of the currency will be decided by market only. But if this market floats too much and there is too much of volatility, the RBI will intervene. This is why our float is managed. Now consider what is happening recently. In India, the supply of dollar reduced, so the price of the dollar moved from 70 to say 85. Within a very short span of time, the price moved from 70 to 85. But the RBI thought this is too much of volatility, too much of floating. The RBI brought it down to say 78. RBI did not decide the exchange rate, RBI just controlled the volatility. Exchange rate अभी भी decide कौन कर रहा है? Market. RBI तभी आएगा जब आपको volatility ज़्यादा होगी. This interference of RBI is a feature of fixed exchange rate. Exchange rate decided by the market is a feature of free float. India has a system which is called as managed float. India does not have completely market determined. RBI can intervene when the currency floats too much. Both positively, negatively, RBI can intervene. But RBI is not determining this 78. ये RBI ने बस सप्लाई बढ़ा दी, अब वो जहां भी रुका, it's market. Here RBI determines exchange rate क्या होगा, तो हमें वो 40 मेंटेन करके ही रखना है. 40 हमने बताया. Here it's market determining these. I am only intervening to bring this from 85 to say. Is it clear? नहीं, ये डिसाइडेड नहीं है. हमें लगा बहुत ज्यादा बढ़ गया प्राइस, तो हमने कुछ डॉलर बढ़ा दिया इंडिया में. अब ये 78 पे लैंड किया, 75 पे लैंड किया, 80 पे लैंड किया, वो आरबीआई कंट्रोल नहीं करता है. आरबीआई को ये लगा ये मूवमेंट बहुत ज्यादा है, ये सप्लाई एकदम से बहुत कम हो गई, तो हम कुछ सप्लाई बढ़ा देते हैं मार्केट में. बस रेट जो भी आए, वी आर नॉट डिसाइडिंग. ये जो तीनों रेट हैं आरबीआई ने डिसाइड नहीं किए हैं. यहां पे आरबीआई ने ही बताया है $1 इज इक्वल टू I will maintain this 40 no matter what happens. I am deciding. This is fixed exchange rate. Free float, whatever the market does, let it do. But India thinks that we will have too much of volatility. Let the RBI intervene when this price movement is too much. That is why managed float. Rate RBI नहीं बता रहा है. Is it making sense? वो free float. मार्केट पे नहीं डिटरमाइन करेगा ना। यहाँ पे मेरे दो एक्सचेंज रेट हो सकते हैं, एक ये एक्सचेंज रेट है और एक ब्लैक मार्केट का रेट हो सकता है जो मार्केट सप्लाई डिमांड है, तो वो रेट अलग हो सकता है। आरबीआई का ये रेट है, इसी पे एक्सचेंज होगा। इज इट क्लियर हाउ एक्सचेंज रेट इज बीइंग डन? जस्ट ब्रॉडली व्हाट वी आर डूइंग, इन डिटेल्स विल डिस्कस व्हेन वी डिस्कस एक्सचेंज रेट। यहाँ रेफरेंस है, दैट इज व्हाई इट हैज टू बी एक्सप्लेन्ड। इज एक्सिम स्क्रिप्ट, exchange rate and then convertibility. Is convertibility clear? Convertibility simple है that my account with rest of the world, India's transaction of India's government, India's private players, India's household is recorded in balance of payment. Current account में वो रिकॉर्ड है जहाँ एसेट लाइबिलिटी चेंज नहीं हो रहे हैं। कैपिटल अकाउंट में वो रिकॉर्ड है जहाँ चेंज हो रहा है। Whatever transactions happen on current account, you can freely convert the currency. No license, nothing. Whatever transactions happen on capital account, there are restrictions. For example, if you have to take loan from outside, loan का purpose पे भी restriction है. If someone wants to invest money outside in buying certain assets, giving certain liabilities, there are restrictions. Liberalized remittance scheme है जिसमें restrictions हैं, आप 2.5 लाख से ज़्यादा बाहर नहीं ले जा सकते. This is the capital account. India adopted free convertibility on current account in 93, removed the exim script mechanism. Till date, India has no convertibility on capital account. No means partial है, it's not complete. Is it clear? Who's using dollar in India? Is this clear? Importers will use dollar because import payments have to be made in dollars. Exporters are the suppliers of dollar. Importers are the one who create the demand of dollar. Not just importer. If someone wants to invest outside India, any company, Tata wants to buy a plant outside India in US, will it demand dollar? So anyone wanting to invest outside India will demand dollar. Anyone who wants to spend on outside goods will demand dollar, primarily being importers. Anyone who is an exporter, is he earning dollars? They are the suppliers. Foreign investment, foreign company coming in India, are they bringing dollars? Foreign investment, exporters are suppliers. Importers and people investing outside India are the one which have demand for dollar. Supply demand जहाँ meet होगा वो exchange rate होता है. Is it clear? Due to any reasons, if supply demand changes, for example, what happened last year? Last year, this is your demand, this is your supply. Last year, what happened? Inflation increased in US. People were getting good returns in US, so whoever had brought the dollars in India started moving out. That means supply of the dollar was reduced. And on the same hand, we had problems in the Russia-Ukraine war. That means a price of lot of imports started increasing. That means the demand for dollar also increased. Demand increased, so our India rupee moved from 70 to more than 80. RBI thought बहुत ज़्यादा volatility है ये. RBI increased the supply and brought this value down. RBI ने supply control किया, supply कम हुआ, RBI ने वापस supply inject किया. This is why RBI's foreign exchange reserves were somewhat around more than 600 billion. It started falling to 550 क्योंकि 50 billion RBI ने market में supply किया to defend the currency. Is it clear how managed float works and how exactly the reforms were? You can write down the trade sector reforms. डॉलर वो एक जो एफडीआई आ रहा है या फॉरेन स्टॉक्स में आ रहा है, कैपिटल भी इन्वेस्ट हो रहा है, वो सब डॉलर्स लेके आ रहा है, वो सप्लायर्स ऑफ डॉलर हैं. रेगुलेशन है. ये वाला जो सेक्टर है कैपिटल अकाउंट पे आपकी फ्री कन्वर्टेबिलिटी नहीं है, आप कितना भी पैसा नहीं ला सकते इंडिया में. आई टोल्ड यू राइट, एफडीआई लिमिट्स, वो लिमिट्स वो रेगुलेशन ही हो गया ना कि अगर आप 100% इंश्योरेंस में नहीं आ सकते, इज इट अ लिमिट ऑन यू. बट आप इंपोर्ट एक्सपोर्ट कितना भी कर सकते हो, फ्रीली कन्वर्टेबल. ड्यूटी है, ड्यूटी इज नॉट सीन एज अ रिस्ट्रिक्शन. ड्यूटी है, ड्यूटी पे करनी पड़ेगी, बट यू कैन कन्वर्ट एनीथिंग. हियर पर्पस इज डिसाइडेड, रिस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं कितना कर सकते हो. इज इट क्लियर हाउ convertibility, exchange rates and your devaluation is working? Write down trade sector reforms. These are your globalization reforms. First, devaluation of the currency. devaluation of the currency by 20%, devaluation of the currency by 20% to increase the competitiveness of exports, to increase the competitiveness of exports. Second, reduction in import duties, reduction in import duties relaxation of quota norms, relaxation of quota norms and introduction of EXIM script and introduction of EXIM script to replace licensing. Is it clear what the EXIM script was? Next. The exchange rate system was moved from a fixed exchange rate to a market-based exchange rate in 93, to a market-based exchange rate in 93. Next, full convertibility of rupee on current account transactions, full convertibility of rupee on current account transactions. Next, FDI was liberalized. And foreign investors were allowed to participate up to 51%. Foreign investors were allowed to participate up to 51% in some high priority sectors. In some high priority sectors. See, I told you this in industrial policy also. Industrial policy introduced certain sectors under which you could have 51% and automatic approval. You do not need government approval. And why 51% is important? You will have the ownership and management control. Is it clear what the trade sector reforms were being done? How exactly they were helping? Now the broader concept of globalization we'll discuss after a break. See, these reforms I just gave you a reference what is happening here. Exchange rate decide कैसे होता है, कौन सा exchange में क्या होता है, and all the impact we are going to discuss in detail. Don't worry, exchange rate dynamics, international online purchase किया, pay dollar से किया, affect foreign reserves, wait for it. You don't know what foreign reserves are right now. So this implication of devaluation on inflation, purchasing power and everything, these dynamics will be discussed in detail. Here's a reference in 91 reforms that how globalization happened. This is how globalization was happening in India. So this is why I gave you a reference. The dynamics, how exchange rate, what is the impact, what exactly happens, what devaluation, depreciation, everything will be discussed in detail. Exchange rate and related phenomena, in fact trade also. Trade related policies and this agreements, free trade agreements, regional trade agreements, WTO, everything we'll discuss in detail. This is just a reference, you don't have to go into the details कि आगे क्या होगा. We'll discuss आगे क्या होगा. I can't do it in one class. It will take time. I'm just telling you, see, all of these things are important because UPSC in prelims has asked a lot of questions based on the chronology of events. what happened in India when. So you should know 91 में कब हुआ था exchange rate movement. उस exchange rate से हुआ क्या था, that is a different field altogether. But this chronology of events, exim script क्या है, कब convertibility allow की, कब liberalized exchange rate system था, कब devaluation हुआ, these events can be asked in prelims. The implication of these we'll definitely discuss. One of the implications I've already discussed, that how devaluation helps the economy. This is clear. Devaluation or depreciation is going to help the exports and imports we are going to control because they are going to get what? Costly. Price दोनों का change हो रहा है तो quantity change होती है. Is it clear? Now if we broadly talk about globalization हुआ क्या India में, the steps are clear. Now what are the benefits of globalization or what is globalization? ये किया क्यों है? First, what is globalization? Opening market. Free flow of goods, services and people, okay. It's just the interconnectedness or interdependence of economy. How? India and Pakistan are one. Then of yoga, right? A lot of Chinese cuisine has brought into India, and see what we have done of it. मोमोज तो पुराने हो गए हैं, मोमोज का सब कुछ यूज़ कर लिया है, अब नया है सुशी, तंदूरी सुशी, फ्राइड सुशी, अफगानी सुशी. मोमोज का तो इट्स डन, नो न्यू थिंग्स कैन बी डन विद मोमोज. जितने एक्सपेरिमेंट्स होने थे, इनफैक्ट इट स्टार्टेड विद व्हाट, बेसिक मोमोज कहाँ से स्टार्ट हुआ, एंड नाउ सी व्हाट इज अवेलेबल. म्योनीस के साथ खाना है, तंदूरी, ग्रीन चटनी. Now sushi is the next experiment. No, exim script is not. So interconnectedness and interdependence of the economy, people, culture, everything. Now why are we doing it, or what exactly is the benefit of globalization? And is globalization a new phenomena? It was happening previously also. What exactly is the basis? What is the rationale of globalization? Why do countries trade amongst each other? The first step of globalization is if you have free trade. The second is when you allow investment and then you allow movement of natural persons. This is how the integration improves. The first basic integration is when trade of goods and services happen without movement of anything, only goods move. Now why, what exactly is the rationale for doing globalization? Resources nahi hai, so yes, effective utilization. How? See, globalization, the biggest benefit why countries trade is that we want to have the most efficient allocation of resource. How will have the most efficient allocation of resource across the globe? Consider two countries, country A and country B. Country A has an advantage, gets the efficiency on making a product X. Country B has a comparative advantage or an efficiency in producing good Y. That means A should not be wasting its resources in producing Y and B should not be wasting its resources in producing X. Instead, they should trade amongst each other. So the most common logic why globalization started, why trade started happening in different parts, because we wanted efficient allocation. Some countries had certain comparative advantage in certain fields. Comparative advantage meant that the good which you can produce efficiently and the good which other can produce efficiently, you should trade amongst each other. Even if you're not producing, even if it is natural resource, there should be exchange which is going to give benefits for both the countries and is not going to lead to wastage of resource. The biggest benefit of globalization is, and this is why trade happens, trade is not right, Silk Route and all, because of the efficient allocation. Someone which can do better, that is comparative advantage, they are the ones who should do it. Rest should trade in those products. This is why globalization should happen. In fact, this whole idea of comparative advantage and efficient allocation has moved to yet another level after 2000s because of the development of technology. See, globalization every time has gotten power through technology. The more improvements in technology, both in transportation and communication, the more the improvements here, the better interdependence and interconnectedness. After 2000s, what has happened? There have been significant changes in transport and communication technology. This field of comparative advantage and efficient allocation has been taken to the next level, because earlier what was happening, the complete product was made by one company. Now this has been broken down. What we have moved to, a field of, this is comparative advantage, where a certain country had a specialization in one of the products. Now what we have moved to is an era of hyper specialization. Now what is hyper specialization? This is what is the era of global value chain. Global value chain means, in this era, country A was producing a product X. So the whole production of the product X happened only in one country. But the level of technology and communication has changed so much that you don't have to make the whole product at one place. The whole product, its value chain, can be spread across different geographies according to various efficiencies different geographies have. No longer will the whole product will be made at one point. The whole product can be broken down into different parts, and those different parts can be spread across geographies. This is what is called as a global value chain. For example, if there is a mobile phone, this mobile phone will not be made at one place. The semiconductor, the chips being used in this are coming from a country A. The battery is coming from a country B. The processor is being designed in country C, and finally this whole mobile phone is being assembled in country D. No longer is the product made at one place. Now the improvements in technology and infrastructure in terms of transportation and communication has increased so much that we are moving towards a field of hyper specialization, where no country is making the whole product. The whole product has been broken down into various value chain, where the value chain is spread across the globe. This is a global value chain. This means hyper specialization and global value chain. Why we are doing this? Because we want the maximum efficiency in allocation. वो product बन रहा था एक जगह पे. अब different countries have different specialization of the same product but at different value point. This means all the more better efficiency in allocation of resource. Because when this country was making the product X, the whole value chain of the product, for example, making the mobile, the outside body, the touch screen, so many things, certain products में इसकी efficiency नहीं होगी. This is why we have spread it across geographies. This means your allocation of resources becomes all the more efficient. This is the reason why a lot of people face problems when you had COVID. Because if one part is coming from one place, for example, in India, cars are manufactured but semiconductors come from some other place. And if you have a problem in this country, the whole value chain is stuck. This was the problem seen. This is why right now countries are talking about resilient value chains. Resilient global value chains. Because of the problems happening in one country can have a issue in the complete part. This is the idea why globalization is better. Because efficient allocation first meant specialization in product. Now the whole product can be broken into different parts. This means allocation becomes all the more efficient. Best allocation of resources across the world, जिसकी जहाँ efficiency है वहीं पे वो product आ रहा है, that is maximum benefits. Nike is a US company, absolutely 0% manufacturing happens in US. You can get the efficiency from some other countries wherever the countries are providing you any benefits. Most of the companies you will find the whole supply chain is broken down into different parts. India mostly assembly pe hai, if it is there. But in most of the advanced products, India is not part of any of the global value chains. We have certain problems in our economy with respect to infrastructure, logistics, and a lot of other issues. This is why we are not part of any of the global value chains. And China is integrated in most of the global value chains on most of the products. But mostly they are integrated at the lower value chain. That is, they make very lower technology products. Higher technology still they don't have. Lower technology products mein China is there. India is not part of any of the major products ka global value chain. In some parts, assembly can happen in India, but this is lower value chain. Is it clear why globalization is beneficial? Most efficient allocation of resource because you are going to produce wherever you are specializing in. And why hyper specialization means the part of a product. No longer will the whole product be efficient at one. And why all of this is possible, be it globalization or in the terms of specialization or hyper specialization, because you have significant improvements in technology. Earlier there was a lot of inventory management being made by different companies, but now everyone's technology is so fast, either through airplanes, ships, it is easy to transport the goods. This is why you can break down into different parts. Both internet and transport has increased the level of technology, therefore hyper specialization. Is it clear? What else is the benefit of globalization? Yes, China imports Indian rice because Indian rice use more water. This is export of water. What is shattering of culture? Globalization has improved the economy but shattered our culture. What is the Indian culture? From where is Indian culture coming? What is Indian culture? What can you define as Indian culture? If you have done history, have a brief idea about world history, what is Indian culture? Huh? Values, customs. From where are they coming? Why are we calling some culture as Indian culture? कहाँ से है? Tradition कहाँ से आया है? Ancestors में did we not have any interaction with rest of the world? So that culture is absolutely learned from other parts itself. If you see the level of architecture, architecture is part of culture. You have different types of architecture in India. What will you call as Indian? What exactly is Indian then? At any point of time, culture has always been a mix from different parts. There was globalization right from Silk Route. Your Indus Valley civilization, we have proof of trade with the rest part of the world. So that means you have intermingling with the rest of the people. So what exactly is then Indian culture? So you can't say negative impact on Indian culture because you can't define something as completely Indian. So culture has always been intermixed of different parts, different regions, different people. Indigenous to this, if something has started, McDonaldization is different. But you understand, culture is always intermixing. It's very difficult to design something as Indian culture. Only one definition, whatever has happened after 2014 is Indian culture. That's like truly Indian. ISI ka mark hai. Is it clear? And these aspects you'll discuss in society. I'll just take the economics. Because us culture society mein jaate thoda sa threat of the 4 C's. Is it clear what is the benefit? Efficient allocation? What else? How? Before import, the reason if you have too much of trade, will it improve the level of competition being faced in the economy? If you are getting the best quality products, that means your domestic producer will have to improve its level of production. Global economies, competition will increase, and this will mean that you will have maximum efficiency. Either you are going to produce the efficient product or you're going to go out of the market. Again, ensuring that you have efficient allocation. Ambassador was selling whatever car in India at whatever price because it had the freedom, it was getting protection from imports. 91 onwards, the moment we started importing, we started allowing outside countries to start making cars in India. Maruti signed a deal with Suzuki. If their level of technology increases, Ambassador is out of the market. So you face competition, either get efficient or stop using the resource. This means you have a lot of productivity in the economy. This is why after 91, we had significant improvements in efficiency and productivity because of enhanced competition. You get the cheap and the best quality product from rest of the world. So this will force your manufacturers to either compete with them or exit the market. This means maximum efficiency. This is why within few span of years, you had from a very bad car to very good cars being made available in India. See, consider the mobile phones. Micromax started with the touchscreen phones, smartphones in India, but the moment other phones were allowed easily import duty, the moment you reduce the import duty, globalization, more trade. That means Micromax is out of business because it cannot produce as efficiently as MI. MI has now captured the market. So you will have to give the efficiency, and this competition efficiency means that you are expanding the choice of products for the consumers. You can buy any product, you are going to get a choice and also at prices which are most efficient. You will not be paying too much for a product which is less efficient. So you will be paying low price for a high quality product, the choice will increase. This is what competition does. So competition plus efficient allocation, because whoever has the maximum benefits are going to do it. Is it clear? What else is the benefit of globalization? Low cost. हाँ यही efficiency यही होगा ना. Competition, low cost of production. What else? FDI is coming like this only. What will FDI give the benefits? If the FDI comes in, what is the benefit of FDI? First, FDI fulfills your saving investment gap. If you want more investment, you have less savings, FDI is going to fill that gap. Plus, FDI can also bring in more technology. More technology can also teach you skills. So FDI investment coming from outside, if you open up, you can have technology transfer, you can have better skills, which you can learn from the people coming from outside. In fact, this is the benefits, not just competitiveness in terms of what goods you are getting. You will also have free flow of ideas and people. And when you have free flows of ideas and people, that means the skill level in your population increases. 20% of the engineers in semiconductor, the design engineers of the world, 20% engineers are Indian. But they don't work for Indian companies. Consider what the CEOs of most of the top companies in US, they have an Indian origin. This is how better availability of skills means the ideas and the people connect, this will improve. This is problematic for India, but better for the other country. This has happened because they have made easier to move people from one place to another. So globalization is not just movement of good, but also movement of people, which can increase the level of skills, can increase the level of education in your society. This is how globalization benefits. What else? Harmony, कैसे? Could be, but थोड़ा far-fetched है वो. India has a very good trade with China. कितना हार्मनी है? डेफिसिट है, बट है तो 100 बिलियन, ट्रेड तो बहुत है. हार्मनी. It is preventing. अच्छा, very good. Economies of scale. The biggest benefit of this globalization is also that you expand the market. What is economies of scale? The economies of scale means that if you are going to increase the level of your output, the cost of input reduces. जितना output बढ़ाते जाओगे, scale production करोगे, if your output increases significantly, you produce at scale, the cost which you are having of inputs, this will significantly reduce. That means producing not just for your country, producing for the world, you will have major cost saving on your inputs. This is why. Why do you think US intervenes in most of the economies outside? What is the reason for interference of US in most of the countries? क्यों लाना चाहते हैं democracy हर जगह? What is benefit of US of installing democracy in any of the countries? Because they want to capture their democracy ensures stability. There's no conflict. People know that power will change after a few time. This means creating the conditions for market so that US producers can sell their goods. Apple, Amazon are becoming billionaires. Why? Because they are not just capturing their market, they're capturing market of the rest of the world. Economies of scale, their output is increasing, input is reducing. That means they are recording a lot of profits. They are engaging more factors of production. That means they're also creating jobs. Quality of jobs is a secondary factor, but definitely they are creating jobs. So globalization not only brings the best technology from rest of the world, but also creates competitive pressures, has more choice for the people, brings in skills through people and expand the market. You can sell outside. South Korea is a very small country, but Samsung still make profits because Samsung does most of its exports. Is it clear why globalization is important? The prime reason for globalization is this only, that you will have the best allocation of resources throughout the world. Those who have the specialization should do it. Specialization now means hyper specialization, global value chains. Is the idea of global value chain clear? Value addition of the product happens across different geographies. The value chain is spread across different geographies. This is a global value chain. And why it has happened? Because of increase in technology. Is it clear? Write down globalization. Yes, soft power and all. योगा सिखा के आए थे. क्योंकि वो तेल देते हैं ना, ऑयल. ये तो अपना अपना वो है ना. They have a lot of money. गरीब कंट्रीज को डेमोक्रेसी चाहिए, गरीब कंट्री को हमारे प्रोडक्ट्स चाहिए. In fact, why should US be interfering in any of the countries? जो सिस्टम जिस कंट्री को चाहिए वो खुद डिसाइड कर लेगा. What does US to do with it? Donald Trump created a lot of pressure on the Prime Minister in India to start importing Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson ka duty is 100%, double the price. But Indian government did not relent. And this is why we used to get a concession from US, that is generalized system of preferences. GSP ek preferences milte the India ko. He cancelled it just for Harley Davidson. Because he was lobby from Harley Davidson that you have to reduce. This is why Harley Davidson said we are going to exit the market. Right now, there are a lot of issues. In fact, RCEP was one regional trading group when India left. Why? Why did India leave RCEP? Why China? What is the problem? Indian business, what? Sorry, not just from China, you would also have a problem that the dairy industry of New Zealand and Australia would have killed India. India is the largest producer of milk, but we don't have good value addition. Competitive नहीं है, production ज़्यादा है, productivity नहीं है. New Zealand, Australia have good productivity goods, they would have come here and destroyed the domestic market. Very simple. Import license क्यों लगाया लैपटॉप पे? उससे पहले drones ban किए, उससे पहले 20,000 से lesser phones will be made in India. We are trying to create protection. Why? Because we want our domestic place to improve, but at the cost of efficiency. Cheap products are not going to come, technology is not going to come, and choice will be reduced. Now, if there's import licensing, वही Dell का laptop 50 की जगह 80 का हो जाएगा. This is a problem for you. High quality, poor quality, and high price goods you will have to buy. Globalization ends all of this. World में जिसका efficient है, वो बेचे. That means there is a pressure of improving your performance. See, why these countries, tiger economies, be it Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, why did they improve? Everybody provided protection, but they asked them to produce for the world. Protection to hai, but do exports. All of your benefits are linked to exports. This is why these countries became highly competitive. India ke saath provided protection, but did not allow them to do exports. So there was no competition. So the moment Indian market opened up in 91 for imports, manufacturing capacity decreased significantly. Because now imports are more competitive, nobody has the capacity to produce. And protection was provided for 50 years. Small scale industry has been provided protection for 70 years. So how are you going to get the efficiency? This is why even basic goods India is not able to produce. China has very high cost advantages. And now all of this industry is now shifting to Vietnam. Is shifting to Bangladesh, is shifting to Philippines. India is still trying hard. But India, if tries to follow policies like high import duties, 2018 after Atmanirbhar Bharat, India has increased the import duties on more than 1300 goods. If you are increasing the import duty, that means again, in the name of self-reliance, you are again creating problems, you will not become efficient. Your country, isse problem hi hoga, your people are going to buy cheap, higher price, low quality goods. Because you are protecting your inefficient domestic producers from competition. Same thing will happen in laptops. We don't know what quality of laptops will be produced. But आज good quality laptop आपको नहीं मिलेगा. Or the problem would be less because licensing हो गई है, महंगे हो सकते हैं. So you understand how globalization gives so much benefits. This is why people trade. India does not have very good relations with Pakistan, right? And this is such a big problem. Consider most of the Indian domestic industry was quite good in Punjab. Ludhiana में सिर्फ textiles ही नहीं था. Ludhiana was also light engineering and cycle manufacturing. Hero यहीं से आया मुंजाल. So they have very good businesses established before partition. Small business, not large business. Now, very good benefits would have been received if you start trading with them. Why Pakistan is important? Because a lot of trade here, not just agriculture goods, industrial goods could happen because Pakistan has a lot of population. Where you can provide goods. Not just this, consider if energy is being produced in this part of the country, they are buying energy from larger parts, energy यहीं से खरीद सकते हैं ना. Both Manmohan Singh, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, they tried hard to improve the relations because this is a very important neighbor. All of these neighbors here are very small neighbors. And this part is already India is trying to connect. But this is a gateway to Central Asia. India has a very big problem that India does not have any pipelines for oil and gas. All of it comes from ships. Ships increase the cost significantly. Insurance and everything. If you have a pipeline here, Tapi and other pipeline also, this reduces your cost significantly. Afghanistan के साथ India has a lot of trade with respect to trade. वो सारा circuit route से आ रहा है. Because Pakistan does not allow. Just because of the domestic politics of these two countries, we are majorly missing out on economic development, majorly. ये सारा India का part could have done very good trade with Pakistan. Consider if this person has to sell a cycle here in Tamil Nadu. ये distance ज़्यादा है as compared to this. और एक culture same है. What you're saying is Indian culture is also Pakistani culture. Coke Studio. Not just Coke Studio, everything same. In fact, if you see partition, creation of nation states, just by drawing boundaries like this, doesn't mean people are different. People living here are more common with people living here than what they have common here. They don't know what the Tamil. लोगों को वही ना यहाँ से नीचे सब इडली सांभर. They don't understand. But Pakistan के साथ बहुत close linkages हैं. If you ever watch India-Pakistan match, everybody is talking in Hindi, everybody is talking in Punjabi. Same culture. वो तो हो गया partition because of certain political reasons. But you consider how economic benefits globalization can bring if you have good relations. This country, this whole region, very less integrated because of the problems between the two. Rest are too small to create any benefits. Nepal अब कहाँ gateway to China तिब्बत है, वहाँ कुछ नहीं है. But here it's a gateway to so many countries from where India gets so many goods. But the domestic politics has made it difficult to now have a rapprochement. IPL नहीं खेलने दे रहे हम. See, this is depends on domestic politics. This is why do you think the previous governments, all of the previous governments had tried to improve the relations with Pakistan, कि अटारी border से trade शुरू हो जाए, क्योंकि growth development इनको यहाँ से ही मिलेगा. Market भी मिल रही है, goods भी मिल रहे हैं, plus culture exchange, so many good things can happen. But domestic politics is so fractious, हो ही नहीं सकता कुछ. एक वर्ल्ड कप का मैच खेलने वही बड़ी बात है. So this is how globalization brings in the benefits. And now when you have no globalization, there's no trade. It's difficult to sell cycles in rest part of the country. You have to provide the benefits. You have Bangladesh and Bengal can have good relations, you will have good trade. Tripura, ये सारा region बांग्लादेश के साथ trade से better हो सकता है. In fact, India today does a lot of import of electricity from these parts. It's very difficult to get the electricity from Nepal and Bangladesh and Bhutan through hydroelectric power projects, then to do it from coal and get the transmission from some other part. Contiguous region से energy trade is the most beneficial thing that can happen, because दूर से अगर energy आएगी, there is a lot of loss. Transmission losses are significant. Pakistan, Amrinder Singh kept on saying so much कि करने दो trade, थोड़ा बहुत हमें बिजली लेने दो यहाँ से. Sorry. Is it clear? How globalization brings in and how South Asia, because of these divisions, is one of the least integrated. And now see the level of development in Southeast Asia. Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, and wo maximum integration. These ASEAN 10 countries, and see the level of development they have. They will definitely get more development as compared to this. And India, itna bada country hai, should have good relations with Pakistan. The most right government, Atal Bihari Vajpayee, started opening the borders because he understood the benefits we can get from trading with Pakistan. After Kargil, you started. See, this is something domestic politics of both countries. I'm not saying it is India to blame. ऐसे तो फिर चाइना के साथ you have 100 billions and now see what China has captured in Eastern and Western. We are not responding because of our domestic politics. If Kargil has happened, so has China has captured a lot of right now whatever the Ladakh skirmishes are happening. वो तो domestic politics की compulsions है कि उसकी बात नहीं हो रही. And we have certain critical dependence. Why are we not stopping the trade with China then? Russia, Ukraine. Do you think Russia has done the right thing when invading Ukraine? India has not taken any stance. Why? Economic benefits. So why not here? Economic benefits की वजह से रशिया के बारे में कुछ G20 is not able to frame a statement in this one whole year. Why? Because India does not have a stance on Russia-Ukraine war. 1.5 साल से free Russia oil. Maximum profits. So you see what economic benefits you get. US, again, Saudi Arabia में नहीं बोलेगा democracy. Economic benefits. लड़ रहे हैं, कितना लड़ रहे हैं. US talks about women rights and see the women rights in Afghanistan. What they have done in Afghanistan. Taliban का one of the spokesperson said that first you cover the whole woman, now he's saying cover one eye also. देखने ही मत दो, एक आंख से देखे ताकि चल पाए रोड पे, वही बंद कर दो ना. This is all the creation of what US has done. तालिबान का बनाने वाला US है. Russia war, Taliban was prepared by US. And now they've left in a vacuum. Everything. And why did they come here? First, why did Russia come to Afghanistan? Why did US enter Afghanistan? Afghanistan is a gold mine for minerals. Afghanistan is sirf economic benefits. But the problem with Afghanistan is broken into various tribes. There's no one Afghan feeling. जैसे India एक nation है, political boundaries हैं. So there's an Indian feeling. There's no Indian feeling or there's no Afghan feeling in Afghanistan. They're all tribes. And when there's no one feeling, there's no one entity, you can't fight. You can't fight with 100 entities. This is what problem, this is why it is called as graveyard of superpowers. Because you're not fighting one people, you're fighting 100 different tribes. This is why Afghanistan becomes a problem for any country. This is why the one enters Afghanistan faces a problem. क्योंकि वहाँ अफगान आइडेंटिटी कुछ नहीं है. When there are tribal identities, सब nationalism ज़्यादा strong है. Tribal identities are more stronger. This is why you have warlords. Everyone controls different powers. There's no one power. India is one. Pakistan, whatever these countries are one, so it's easy to defeat them. It's easy to conquer them. But you can't defeat when you're fighting with 100. Guerrilla warfare में कभी नहीं जीत पाओगे. This is what US and Russia has seen. And now see what Afghanistan. Everything is driven at the end by the economics. Why did they enter? Because what mineral wealth Afghanistan has. Write down globalization. ये ठीक है नहीं है, you decide. I'm just telling you कि क्या हो सकता अगर हो तो. I'm not saying कि this is right or wrong. Be it import licensing on computers, be it these import duties, I'm just telling you what is happening and telling you what is good or not good. You decide क्या होना चाहिए नहीं होना चाहिए, because the other side of the debate is that how will we produce domestically if we keep on importing. ये भी तो एक बात हो सकती है ना, सेल्फ रिलायंस, आत्मनिर्भर, तो हमारे वाले कैसे प्रोड्यूस करेंगे. अब लेनोवो का कंपटीशन, सॉरी डोमेस्टिक मैन्युफैक्चर लेनोवो का कौन कॉम्पीट करेगा. IBM, लेनोवो, जो भी डेल बना रहे हैं, who will compete? They will need protection. But the point is protection till when? And in this globalization era, can we provide protection? Trade war start hogi. The other country will increase the tariffs for other goods coming from India. Because if you are stopping their imports, they will definitely have retaliatory tariffs or will take certain steps. They'll stop investing in your country. So implications could be huge if the political parties think about it. They cannot go hand in hand. In fact, broadly they cannot, because you're stopping Atmanirbhar means self-reliance. Globalization, you're stopping globalization. We'll talk about this while discuss industrial policy, how it evolved after also. First right, globalization. Globalization is the increasing interdependence, and interdependence and interconnectedness of the world's economies, cultures, populations, brought about by cross-border trade, in goods and services, technology, and flow of investment people and information. Next, right? Benefits of globalization. You understand global value chain. The value chain is being distributed across geographies. जो part जो better बनाता है वहीं बनना चाहिए. Benefits of globalization. First, it improves resource allocation. As the country focuses on sectors where they have a comparative advantage. Second, it provides exposure to global competition. And helps improve the efficiency and productivity in the economy. It provides exposure to global competition and helps improve the efficiency and productivity in the economy. Is this clear? How efficiency and productivity? So we're going to stop the good quality, cheaper imports. Your cost of production is increasing. Now you can relate how import duty is becoming export tax. Now you understand how import duty is becoming export tax. How? Imported and duty increases, your production cost increases, your efficiency goes down. And if your production cost increases, efficiency goes down, your export is not competitive. तो जो आप प्रोडक्ट बना रहे हो वो कॉम्पिटिटिव नहीं होगा. Why do you think Bangladesh is giving a very stiff competition to Indian textiles? चीप लेबर इंडिया में कितना महंगा है. 200 रुपये में काम करा रहे हैं लोग कॉन्ट्रैक्टर. सो इट्स चीप लेबर राइट. कॉन्ट्रैक्टर ऐसा थोड़ी है बांग्लादेश में सब लोग बहुत खुशहाल हैं और नो कॉन्ट्रैक्टर. रॉ मटेरियल इंडिया के पास क्या नहीं है? कौन सा नहीं है? इनफैक्ट रॉ मटेरियल इज द आंसर, बट व्हाट रॉ मटेरियल? WTO privileges, least developed. One reason is this. Then what else? कॉस्ट में भी एफिशिएंट है इंडिया से वो. हाँ, ड्यूटी का क्या प्रॉब्लम है? विमेन वो तो इंडिया में ऑल्सो यू कैन डू, बट व्हाट अबाउट फ्रॉम दैट? The biggest problem is that in India on man-made fibers there's significant amount of import duty. That means cheap raw material in terms of man-made fibers cannot come in India because few players who are the biggest producers of this have got the protection. अगर import आ जाएगा तो उनसे कौन खरीदेगा? This is why the cost of textiles is slightly more than what Bangladesh has because of the import duty. Now this is how import duty is becoming an export tax. तो अगर बांग्लादेश एक्सपोर्ट करेगा, इंडिया एक्सपोर्ट करेगा, बांग्लादेश इज मोर कॉम्पिटेटिव एज कम्पेयर टू इंडिया. दे हैव अदर एडवांटेजेस ऑल्सो, बट वन डेफिनेटली प्रॉब्लम इज दैट इंडिया हैज इम्पोर्ट सिग्निफिकेंट इम्पोर्ट ड्यूटी ऑन वेरियस मैन मेड फाइबर्स. We want our producers to buy from the one who is producing in India only, and there's one very big player who produces it, due to whom the import duty is high. This is why it becomes an export tax on India. This is clear how import duties are an export tax. It reduces your efficiency and productivity. Next. बिल्कुल, डेफिनेटली दिस इज हाउ यू ट्रांजिशन, यू मूव फ्रॉम हायर वैल्यू चेन्स. कॉम्पिटेटिव रहोगे तो बढ़ोगे ना. अब सैमसंग कंस्ट्रक्शन प्लेयर ही रह जाता. एंड सी व्हाट लेवल ऑफ टेक्नोलॉजी सैमसंग इज डूइंग. सैमसंग क्यों कर रहा है फोल्ड फोन को? एप्पल क्यों नहीं कर रहा है? एप्पल नोज के पीपल आर गोइंग टू बाय. Samsung still keep on improving the efficiency productivity because it's trying to improve what the product it is selling. If it would have sold only in South Korea, यही मिल रहा है लो. You see, efficiency productivity के लिए push करना ना, तभी तो company will be competitive. This is why Apple is facing pressures for Samsung. Samsung sells more phones than Apple. Value wise ज़्यादा capture Apple का है because it's expensive. 200 मेगापिक्सल का कैमरा है Samsung में. You can zoom till the moon. Such a big invasion of privacy. क्या करना है zoom इतना? Right down next. Exactly. What's the point of 200? क्या देखोगे moon पे कि 200 मेगापिक्सल से? What is the benefit? But still Samsung is doing it right. Samsung in 2019-18, Samsung before COVID happened, Samsung had a very big problem overheating of its battery. Explode भी हुआ है. Nobody is talking about the problem right now. This is how efficiency can solve problems. Nobody is talking about that problem. That was a significant problem Samsung ने recall भी किया थे products. In fact, India में MI started capturing the market because Samsung phone were not seen as reliable. Still Samsung has the largest market in India. Largest market in India. और ये नहीं है हाई वैल्यू फोन से, लो वैल्यू फोन से सैमसंग ने कवर किया है. सैमसंग एंड MI का कॉम्पिटिशन है इंडिया में. लो वैल्यू फोन्स मैक्सिमम सेलर इज सैमसंग. सो यू सी हाउ अक्रॉस द वैल्यू चेन हाईएस्ट टेक्नोलॉजी भी फोल्ड एंड एवरीथिंग फ्लिप फ्लॉप सब कर रहा है. We'll talk about this later. ये चाहे पे चर्चा बाद में. Next, just because I give an example, ये थोड़ी चलो ये बताओ ये क्या हो रहा है. Cross border exchange of information. Cross border exchange of information, people and technology. Cross border exchange of information, people and technology can provide better access to productivity enhancement techniques, and skill sets across economies. Productivity enhancing techniques and skill set across economies. Is this clear? COVID vaccine, Serum Institute did not only manufacture the syringes. Technology came from UK, Oxford AstraZeneca. This is globalization. If you did not have exchange of information and technology, you would not get the first COVID vaccine. Second COVID vaccine was formed in India, but the first one came from outside only. So if you don't have this, you will not have technologies. In fact, most of the technology skill set, you try to learn from what other countries, what other companies are doing. This is what globalization is. Next. Globalization provides access to global markets It provides access to global markets. And help companies achieve economies of scale. Help companies achieve economies of scale. And generate more profits. Achieve economies of scale and generate more profits. Next, investment coming from other countries. Investment coming from other countries can bridge the domestic saving investment gap. Investment coming from other countries can bridge the domestic savings investment gap. Provide technology and also create employment in the economy. Is this clear? The last one. Can you quote some examples here on the last one? How investment from outside has created jobs in India? The complete services sector. We have IT sector jobs mostly given by the MNCs. Deloitte, GE, everyone's outside MNC. They are the ones who are producing most of the employment in India. Yes, they're taking benefits by using the resources at a cheaper cost, but yes, you are getting a job also. IT, BPO sector, सारा यहीं से आया है. After 91, India opened up, got a lot of growth in service sector because MNCs from outside the world had come in India. Is it clear how globalization benefits? Write down a question. Write down. How globalization has led to reduction of employment in formal sector in India. How globalization has led to reduction of employment in formal sector of the Indian economy. How globalization has led to reduction of employment in formal sector of the Indian economy. Is increased informalization detrimental to development of the country? Detrimental to development of the country. Can you relate globalization with informal jobs? You know what is globalization? What are the benefits? Now, can you relate how globalization has led to reduction of formal employment in the country? See, this is how questions will come in the exam. Basics you will know, you will have to relate two concepts. You know what is formal employment? Permanent salaries, you have social security. Informal employment, contractual, no wage security, no social security, poor working conditions. Now, how is globalization related to formalization or lack of it? How? What is that? Why? क्यों ग्लोबलाइजेशन से कैसे? ये तो समझ आ रहा है इनफॉर्मल क्यों हो रहा है, टेक्नोलॉजी की वजह से भी तो हो सकता है वो. वॉट यू आर सेइंग इज गिग इकोनॉमी कैसे प्लेटफॉर्म बेस्ड जॉब्स आ रही हैं तो वो टेक्नोलॉजी की वजह से है, ग्लोबलाइजेशन की वजह से कैसे है? गिग प्लेटफॉर्म तो इंडिया के भी है ना. Zomato is not outside company. Zomato is Indian company only. Flipkart is an Indian company. Now it has been sold to someone else. But these are Indian companies only. So technology has brought a change in nature of work. My question is different. My question is how globalization has brought a change in nature of work. Question is not how technology is bringing gig economy. The question is how globalization is bringing informalization. इन इनफॉर्मल नहीं, क्वेश्चन इज ग्लोबलाइजेशन से इनफॉर्मल क्यों हुआ है? यू आर सेइंग इनफॉर्मल में ग्लोबलाइज्ड कंपनी ज्यादा पैसे देते हैं, क्यों देंगी? डू यू हैव एग्जांपल्स एनीवेयर व्हिच हैज हैपेंड? ये तो खुद बना रहे हो ना कि बट कुछ बताना जो हुआ है, मतलब कहानियां ऐसे में लिखते हैं, जीएस में नहीं. Can you relate the two? I've explained enough where you can relate. So, yes, the biggest problem is if you have increased competition, that means you are in a field of hyper specialization. Hyper specialization means the value chain is spread. The maximum benefits semiconductor में country A देगी तभी semiconductor यहाँ बनेगा. Semiconductor is higher value, but in lower value, low-end manufacturing, you can't increase the technology beyond a point. For example, textile. This textile is a very good example here. Textile mein you don't have a lot of technology. Textile is mostly dependent on what your cost of labor is. So there are a lot of manufacturing industries where the cost is dependent on the cost of labor because everyone has the same technology. That means textile globalization means textile will be made in those countries which have the maximum advantage. Maximum advantage, that means you will have to cut down the cost of labor. Cut down the cost of labor, that means don't give them a permanent job, keep them informal. The competition is so high, you cannot have cost margins. Cost margins are only on two things. One is the cost of your transportation, logistics, and the other is cost of labor. अब ये combination जिसको better मिलेगा जिस country में, they are going to go in that country. For example, China has very good logistics capacity. China had cheap labor. Now these two combinations meant textile mostly was produced in China. But beyond a point, you can't depress the wages of labor. Because if the country is getting rich, textile company is getting profits, labor का भी wage बढ़ेगा. That means now textile is not competitive in China. That means China has to shift, or textile industries will find places where there are cheap labor. Cheap labor means you are going to find informal. You can make the labor cost cheaper by not giving them social security, by having certain conditions so that you can cut their cost. So now when labor cost has increased in China, it will find options in Vietnam, Bangladesh, or countries where the labor cost is still depressed, where countries are poor. How you can exploit that condition there? You make the labor informal. So hyper specialization, global value chains mean that you are going to produce in a country which is going to give you the maximum advantages. Maximum advantages in low-end manufacturing only comes from labor or logistics cost. Logistics costs cannot be improved in a day. Logistics is movement of goods. So infrastructure facilities take a lot of time to develop. So now your one factor that can help is, once logistics is sorted, is labor. So exploit the labor the maximum, you are going to get benefits. This is how Nike earns profits. Nike is not manufacturing in US. Why is it not manufacturing in US? Labor cost in Vietnam. Labor in a capitalist economy is a commodity whose prices have to be depressed, then only the company has profits. Everything, just check once Nike, Adidas, anything, you'll always find made in Vietnam, made in Indonesia, because there you can exploit the labor. That means globalization is leading to, why? Because you can move the part. Hyper specialization means when the part is being produced here, you can move the part anywhere across where you have less labor cost. And labor cost less means informal labor. Formal labor will always have more cost as compared to informal. This is why China has a lot of sweatshops. That means too much of exploitation because we want growth. So labor cost ही cut हो सकती है. क्योंकि in low-end manufacturing you can't have machines. Beyond a point, in a lot of industrial manufacturing capacity, machines cannot do it. So where you can reduce the cost? Labor or logistics. Is it clear how globalization has led to this? This is one of the reasons. You have to think more also. The question is how globalization has led to reduction of formal employment. तो अब जो jobs हैं इंडिया में वो formal नहीं होंगी, informal होंगी क्योंकि cost advantages चाहिए. Consider one thing that if now there is an import coming from MI का import हो रहा है इंडिया में, right? Micromax is a domestic producer. Micromax has people on a permanent pay scale. It's formal employment. But Micromax knows that my permanent employment के बाद the cost of my mobile phone is coming out to be 15,000 rupees. ये phone ही 12,000 का बेच रहा है. How will I compete? I will fire the people on permanent and then hire people on contract. I will reduce my labor cost because I am facing competitive pressures from rest of the world. Not only that, I will also create conditions for the rest of the world by depressing my labor cost. Why do you think people are moving out from China to Vietnam and Bangladesh? Why can't people in China keep on producing? labor cost, because now labor cost is not giving me the advantage. I started with one premise in globalization: countries will produce where they have the maximum advantage. Specialization labor की cost की थी, वो नहीं है अब. Is it clear how globalization will lead to reduction in formal employment? This is just one argument. There are others also. What disinvestment? Yes, government hasn't put in disinvestment. Consider before 91 who was the major job creator? PSU. PSU has permanent jobs, provide social security. Now PSUs also have to face this competition. The government tries to reduce the participation of PSU. The reduction in participation of PSU, that means whatever PSU is also hiring now is informal. Railway has the maximum amount of formal employment in the country, with it has hired more than 13 lakh people. But railway is also the largest informal hire where you have contractual labor working in railways. Now most of the PSUs are not hiring people on permanent payroll, they are hiring people on contracts. Even if they're not hiring directly, they are getting their works done by people who are having contractual labor. Because now after globalization, you have so much of competitive pressures that you will need cost advantages. PSUs are also now stuck in the cost advantage, because earlier PSU had the freedom because they were provided protection. So whatever I make, my product is going to sell. If the Tata, your hero, is manufacturing a bicycle, it has to take steel only from me. But now steel is open of rest of the world also. So someone is selling cheaper steel, I can take from there also. So now this PSU has to face a competition from steel being produced in China and South Korea. That means it also has to reduce its cost, because its steel is no longer captive to its own market. पहले तो जो भी स्टील आ रहा है, good quality, bad quality, whatever price, they have to buy from me. Now they don't, because they have other options also. This means cost I will also have to reduce. This is why you will always find railway will most of the times do employment through contract. This is how you reduce the cost. Because in a globalized environment, competition creates excessive pressures to reduce the cost. Beyond a point, you cannot improve technology. You will have to control the cost of labor. Cost of labor converted from formal to informal. One here, other PSU also. Is it clear? वो change करेंगे ना हम labor laws. This is why countries will create conditions so that other people can come and invest. If I strict labor laws, will any country invest? This is why you'll always find micron technology. कोई भी बोलता है we have an interest in investing in India. Every state government thinks हम land दे देंगे, हम पानी दे देंगे, हम ये दे देंगे, हम सब दे देंगे. This is why now you want investments from outside, you create the conditions so that they produce. One of the conditions will give you lax labor laws. Karnataka government, when this started, COVID, said working hours can be increased from 8 to 12 hours. Conditions improve करते रहो कि labor को बिल्कुल मार दो. Take profits. This is what globalization does. This is why exploitation. This is why if you see, there's a lot of labor union movement that is happening in private sector now. Amazon, it got very famous, that the labor union, because you are killing the labor. Everywhere the company is going for cheaper labor. Cheaper labor means exploitation. Amazon started with Joe Smalls. Then you have Starbucks also unionizing. Now a lot of private companies are seeing unions of labor. Private sector में कभी union allowed नहीं है. Now you are seeing in most of the firms. Why? Because Amazon is earning money at the cost of labor. It's killing the labor to get its profits. This is why they are now forming unions, are demanding protection. That we are being killed. Formal to informal किया इसलिए ताकि cost advantages मिले. Is it clear how globalization is leading to informal? See, this is how you have to think. You have to find examples. You are not going to get a direct question के benefits बताओ globalization का. It's not a university exam anymore. You will have to think. And better is to think right now. UPSC in a tense environment, 8 minutes you will not know. Then you'll form stories. कि ये हो रहा है शायद. So think right now. This is why I'm giving questions. Questions is not important for you to write them right now. Right now, writing answers would be very difficult because remembering the concept, relating the concepts, then you write. Questions are only being given so that you have an idea which direction to think. Relate to the newspaper. So whatever terms we do, whatever topics we do, you should understand it from the newspaper and try to relate it to different things. Just like globalization has been related to informalization. Is it clear? I told you how competition happened. कंपटीशन से सोचना चाहिए कॉस्ट का एडवांटेज कहाँ से आएगा. टेक्सटाइल या कोई भी लो एंड मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, मोबाइल मैन्युफैक्चरिंग, मोबाइल की असेंबली में देयर इज नो टेक्नोलॉजी. Maximum technology is one, design of the phone, semiconductor. That is where the technology comes in. Rest parts of the mobile phone manufacturing has only assembly. This is why India, MI is started a plant and is exporting a lot of phones from India. The PLI scheme in mobile phones has been a huge hit in India because of this. Because MI is getting the cheap labor in India. Technology बहुत कुछ नहीं है उसमें. And whatever technology they do, they have their own technology. You don't need machinery and design, everything they have on their own. What they want is cheaper labor of India. This is why India is saying Apple ko bhi manufacture here. Use the cheap labor. This is how informalization will happen. Is it clear? Gig economy is not the answer because gig economy is a change in nature of work because of technology changes. It's not because of globalization. Indian companies are also doing gig. Why? Because of technology changes. Most of these services are now being delivered through platform. उससे भी हो रहा है informalization. This is also where the companies are saving cost, but those are not related concepts. Related concept is globalization. You can create a link there कि globalization has brought us the technology. Technology से फिर gig हो रहा है. But that is again slightly far-fetched. You have to be very direct. Is it clear? How is informalization bad for the economy? The second part is informalization detrimental to the development of the nation? How is informalization detrimental? India has more than 90% of its employment in informal sector. 90%. Yesterday, Hindu carried out a report, parso. The data point, formal job creation in India. Has anyone read that article? Back to back, it has published very important articles. First, it talked about women labor force. It gave data on women labor force and the unpaid work of women in the country. 7 hours. As opposed to how much of men? 3 hours, maximum 3 hours. See, this is how you relate it to the newspaper. Did we discuss women in labor force participation rate? Now that article of Hindu has given a lot of data, has given a lot of arguments also how it is happening. 24% what they quoted is the women labor force participation. Yesterday the newspaper quoted a study on formal employment, EPFO data they quoted. That how are we measuring formal employment and what informal. This is how you have to prepare for the exam. You have to relate. All of these things have been taught to you in the class. You have to relate these concepts, what is happening in the newspaper. Blank reading nahi karni hai newspaper ki. If you are first, don't stop reading the newspaper. Because ये यहाँ पे 4 पॉइंट ये लिखवा दिए, ये 4 पॉइंट नहीं आएंगे. इन 4 पॉइंट को सोचना है. Newspaper is the place which makes you think that why this is happening. We will always be given the basics. UPSC will not ask that. UPSC will always ask one level above, will ask you to think. This is why we say newspaper से content मिले ना मिले, newspaper से thinking ability बनती है. Your mind will ask questions why this is happening. First is कि हो क्या रहा है, पहले तो वो समझ नहीं आता था. Now 20 classes have passed, you know a lot of things why what is happening. A lot of terms will make sense. Are you relating to what is happening in the class with what is happening in the newspaper? These two together will make sense and you will have to write the answer. Don't expect easy questions from UPSC कि ये आ जाएगा define globalization. This is not. Set your realities. ये reality सबसे जल्दी तभी newspaper रोज बोलते हैं पढ़ने को. Newspaper is not going to give you the right content for writing an answer. वो source नहीं है. वो source सिर्फ सोचने का है. Analytical ability develop करने का है कि किस axis पे सोचना है. The questions are giving you the direction in which direction you have to think. Is it clear? How many read about the formal labor force participation? 1, 2. And rest? Indian Express. Indian Express में क्या था? It's exactly these things are covered in both the newspapers. It's not that that newspaper is not covering. They're also talking about similar things. You can't say in the exam कि मैं तो Express पढ़ा है तो question हिंदू का है. Any topper stock, go back again, listen to any topper stock, no one will say that they've read just only one newspaper. Because one newspaper is just, you are reading newspaper for the sake of it. 2 newspapers means you are building analysis. You are getting information. 20 minutes, 25 minutes is the maximum you have to take in reading the newspaper. There's a lot of time now your batch has passed. Starting में मुश्किल होता है, चीज़ें समझ नहीं आती है. बहुत सब्जेक्ट समझ आ चुके हैं. And you know what you have to read. Only 10% of the newspaper is important for the exam. वैसे भी 50% तो ऐड ही है. या गवर्नमेंट की है ये. कोचिंग ले लो. What else is in there in the newspaper? 10 to 20 minutes is what you should take. You should identify ये article important है. This gives you time to read another newspaper. This gives you time. This means your analysis level is very improved, sophisticated होता जा रहा है. Selection in this exam doesn't depend on prelims. Prelims is only screening. UPSC doesn't want to check the answers of everyone. This is why screening is getting difficult. Selection happens only on mains. Only on mains. At one point you have to clear 9 papers, 1750 marks. वो 1750 marks से decide करेंगे कि क्या rank मिलेगी. 275 का है interview सिर्फ. People have scored as low as 130 in the interview and have got rank 3 because they beat everyone in mains. Do you think, is it important how much the topper scored in prelims? Nobody talks about the prelim score. Why? 85 है तो 85.5 आए चाहे 185 आए. What's the difference? Nobody is counting your score. Nobody is asking you how did you answer the question. Question का answer सामने है. Nobody is asking you कैसे किया, चाहे सिक्के उछाल रहे थे अंदर. Nobody is asking you that. But when you have to fill blank sheets, this is what you think will come out. And this is what is the beauty of the exam. It's not a 5-hour exam. 5-hour exam you can manipulate. You can think. In a 3-hour exam in 20 hours, जो भी आता है वो सब लिख दोगे. And your reality is there. Across 9 papers. And you have to score in each and every one of them. So if you're preparing for this exam, prepare well, prepare for mains in mind. And time pass का कोई scope नहीं है. This is not college कि degree सबको मिल जाएगी. This preparation, either do it properly or don't do it. There's nothing in between. Such is the level. Hyper competition है. 800 लोग तो मिल ही जाएंगे ना इंडिया में जो तैयारी कर रहे हैं. Not just the first timers, till the 6th timer. So either prepare it well or don't prepare it. Don't trouble yourself. Because degree तो मिलनी नहीं है यहाँ पे. Are you going to get anything? So you're preparing, just think about the mains. That am I going on the right direction or not? And if only 3 people have read that article, rest are not even reading the newspapers, you're already out of the race. Don't expect that one day you will have some 2014 movement होगा कि सूरज उदय हो गया है. This is not सूर्यवंशम. 5 मिनट में नहीं बनोगे IAS. ये गाना बैकग्राउंड में चला और मैंने आज सपना देखा IAS. फेस इट, 8000 बच्चे तो यहीं पे हैं. 800 का सिलेक्शन है. Only 3 people know it. They know the article. 1 person has read it. The rest don't have a clue. What are you preparing for then? Are you going to wait for some year to come and then you're going to prepare कि पहले सारी क्लास हो जाए? 1 साल अगर यहाँ होगा तो वो दूसरे साल पेपर होगा. And if you're thinking of next year already, just realize right now you have the motivation because you're seeing people around you who are preparing. The class is not just giving you the content, the class is giving you a feel of the competitive environment which you have. Next year, you are on your own. Next year, there's no discipline from the class. Right now, you can very well say that I have 6 hours of optional this and that, तो time निकल जाता है. Next year, कुछ भी नहीं होगा ये. 24 घंटे खुद के साथ. It will be very difficult to then manage if you don't have the motivation and if you're not on the right track today. So don't just postpone problems के जब आएगी तब देख लेंगे. फिर वो 1 साल से 2 साल, 5-year plan. And nothing will change. Because preparation is not difficult. जिम है ये, नहीं है मुश्किल. रोज करना है वो मुश्किल है. This paper only requires discipline. It doesn't require intelligence. Whatever questions you have seen in prelims and mains, do you think it requires intelligence? Intelligence होता तो बहुत लोग आते नहीं तैयारी करने. The entry barrier to this exam would be very high if this exam would have been technical. Why is no one preparing for economic services? Why is no one preparing for RBI grade B? उसका टेक्निकल एंट्री बैरियर है ना, टेक्निकल पढ़ना पड़ेगा. यहाँ नहीं है कुछ भी टेक्निकल. दिस वाई एवरीबडी थिंक्स कि हाँ कर सकते हैं, बट रोज नहीं कर पा रहे. रोज नहीं कर पा रहे तो हर साल घूमोगे क्योंकि पढ़ने को कुछ है ही नहीं. नाउ आई हैव टॉट यू ग्लोबलाइजेशन, यू नो इन्फॉर्मलाइजेशन. डू यू थिंक समवन कैन टीच यू दिस आंसर? So don't take this lightly. Read the newspaper at least every day, whatever you're doing apart from it. Just note down on 24 hours how you spend the 24 hours. 6 hours की class हुई है. Where are the rest of the 18 hours? Provided you sleep for 6 to 8. Where are the next 10 hours? You take 2 hours to eat. यही निकलता है. I've asked a lot of people, why you don't have time? You said 6 hours class. I get it. 1 hour बीच में travel, 7. 8 hours you sleep, 15 hours. Where are rest of the 9 hours? 2 घंटे travel, 2 घंटे Instagram, 4. Where are the rest 5 hours? Find it. See, if you are not doing it, someone else is doing it. And you both, when meet the day of the exam, he is going to beat you. तो दुख उस दिन एक दिन होगा और बहुत ज़्यादा होगा, और वो उसी दिन रहेगा. फिर वही सेम हैबिट शुरू हो जाएंगी. दिस एग्जाम इज ऑल अबाउट हैबिट्स, इट्स ऑल अबाउट डिसिप्लिन. दैट्स इट. It's not asking you to do something extraordinary. It's not asking you to read some technical. Economics कहीं पे भी ऐसा लगा है कुछ technical पढ़ा है? तो वो टर्म ही नहीं पता था जीडीपी, अब पता चल गया तो लग रहा है ना आसान ही कुछ है, कुछ ज़्यादा मुश्किल नहीं है. बट रीडिंग इट डेली और नॉट रिलेटिंग इट टू व्हाट इज हैपनिंग इन द न्यूज़पेपर, देयर इज नो पॉइंट. डोंट ट्रबल योरसेल्फ, डोंट क्रिएट स्ट्रेस, एंजॉय करो लाइफ में, नौकरी मिल ही जाएगी कहीं ना कहीं. और सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयमेंट पकौड़े. Why trouble yourself here? And giving the false apprehension, yes, you can clear it. Without newspaper, you're not going anywhere. Just find out where your 24 hours are going. Just try to write it on a piece of paper, because everybody is getting the same 24. The one who's taken a coaching, the one who's not taken a coaching, the one who's preparing optional, who's not preparing optional from coaching. Everyone has the same 24 hours. Where are your 24 hours going? Because newspaper doesn't take a lot of time. Initial days, yes, 2 hours, now half an hour, 20 minutes. And if you skipped it altogether and you think that the monthly current affairs is going to save you, forget that. Monthly current affairs एक history की किताब है. Spectrum recorded history where you could not live that history. Monthly current affairs is writing the history right now in front of you when you're living the history. What is monthly current affairs? इस month का history तो है, last 1 साल का history हो जाएगा वो. But this is the history you had a chance to live. औरंगजेब को तो नहीं देख पाए थे, यहाँ तो देख लो क्या हो रहा है. And monthly current affairs is been given to everyone. So baseline content जिसका prepare हो रहा है, सोचने की ability नहीं दे रहा है वो. It's just compiling content so that you don't have to make notes. And if you think you will have shortcuts in terms of videos, in terms of this content and that content में also people are asking कि इससे छोटा कुछ है, क्यों पढ़ो ही मत ना, उससे क्या है, इससे बेटर क्या है, 2 घंटे एक्स्ट्रा सो जाओ. Sleep 2 hours extra, at least take care of your health. Why trouble yourself? I still have people asking me कि what sources have to be read, क्या पढ़ें. ये याद नहीं हो रहा है, ये रिवाइज नहीं हो रहा है, बुक चाहिए पहले. Did I not mention in the first class that there is no book? What part of that was not clear? When I said that UPSC के books है ही नहीं for this exam, this exam में economics, the syllabus, the topics are quite different from what they ask. So coaching material is what is going to help you. You have printed material in this. Now till the 20th class, I have questions that what exactly book should we follow. It's a very simple technique. You know what the questions are. You have the material. क्या solve नहीं हो रहा है. This is how you know that this is the question, this is what I've been taught. Out of this, am I able to write the question? Am I able to think on the question? Do you think some book is magically going to solve all your problems? और जो book खरीद भी ली है, example लक्ष्मीकांत, कितनी पढ़ ली वो? What you are asking for books, whatever books you have bought, how much percentage have you read? But you want to buy one more book, another book, another newspaper, another compilation. जो पढ़ा है वो तो पढ़ो ना. Because hard work is difficult, वो diligence नहीं है. सबको सपना सेम दिख रहा है. SP अमित वर्मा, officer. Everyone seeing the same dream, but nobody is working for it. Do you think magically you will become that officer? 4 दिन न्यूज़पेपर समझ पढ़ के ही आ जाता है कि कितना मुश्किल है एग्जाम. In the terms of competition, how many are preparing and what the situation of economy is. Every second person has a dream of preparing for UPSC. Whether they're working a job, they're working 2 jobs, they still have this dream and people clear it also. You have the privilege of sitting at home and preparing, and yet you are not doing it. Consider yourself lucky. This is a very important privilege you have. Not everyone gets this chance of sitting 1 year just for preparing. 1 year. Without thinking of where the money is coming from. You don't know what next year will bring. कुछ भी हो सकता है, अच्छा बुरा. लोगों की शादियों में नाच रहे होगे, फिर सोचोगे हमारा क्या हो रहा है. So things can change. Don't take this for granted, this time what you have got, without any pressures. Because from now, pressures will increase. Right now, time is being consumed in the classes. Next year, you won't have anything. And you don't know what the next year brings, whether you will be able to prepare or not. You might have to take a job. Then your dream will be sacrificed. So जब time निकल रहा है ना, तब सोच लो क्या निकल रहा है. It's very disappointing to know that out of the whole class, only 5 people know what the Hindu reported yesterday. There's no point reading all this. ये नहीं आएगा. ये सिर्फ बेस बन रहा ताकि समझ आ जाए, जो आएगा तो सोच पाओ. We're only teaching you ABCD. You are the one who's going to write the essay. ABCD ग्रामर पढ़ाई जा रही है यहाँ पे. ऐसे खुद लिखना है, खुद बनाना है. बेसिक्स क्लियर हो रहे हैं. सो टेक इट सीरियसली और डोंट डू इट. बेस्ट है. दिस इज वाई यूपीएससी इज बेस्ट. करो या नहीं करो, बीच में फंसने वाला काम ही नहीं है. इंजीनियर नहीं बनना था, घर वाले बना रहे हैं, फिर भी बन रहे हो. यहाँ नहीं है. डोंट डू इट. एक्सेप्ट योर रियलिटी. हाँ नहीं हो पा रहा, नहीं, मुश्किल है. जिम तो सबको, बॉडी तो सबको चाहिए ना, 6 पैक. क्या बना रहे हैं सब? एवरीबडी नोज व्हाट यू हैव टू डू. यू जस्ट हैव टू लिफ्ट वेट्स. अब डंबल उल्टे सीधे तो नहीं उठाओगे, मार तो लोग. इट्स सिंपल, दिस ओनली हैव टू डू, बट यू हैव टू डू इट डेली. एक्सेप्ट कर लो नहीं बनाना, नहीं हो रही वो मेहनत. सेम यहाँ है, एक्सेप्ट कर लो नहीं हो रही, छोड़ो. यू लर्न दीज 2 लाख रुपीज, डोंट वरी, वट एवर यू हैव स्पेंड. अब तक काफ़ी पैसे स्कूल और कॉलेज में भी तो खर्च हुए हैं. ये भी मान लो वही एक एक्सपेंडिचर. टेक इट सीरियसली और डोंट डू इट. Write this answer, the second part also. Informalization is detrimental. Is it clear? Problems of globalization and 91 reforms we'll discuss next class. And try reading the newspaper.